All right, ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Welcome to another exciting episode, the second episode of the True Fate Debate. Come one, come all, we are testing everything that we know to be true, including our spiritual securities. So, with that, we'll go ahead and dive right on in as usual. Where in the heck are we? Boom. Here we are. Appreciate everybody tuning in. People in Rokfin should be piling in here momentarily. We'll see this chat underneath light up. Folks, if you'd like to have your comments read live on the show by whoever may be watching, then feel free to join us over on Rokfin. The show is free while we are live today. So, welcome, welcome. We have a loaded topic today. It seems that just about every truther conversation, every conspiracy panel, anytime something comes up with some, snake symbolism, everybody's all up in arms. So I figured we go ahead and tackle that today. There's a lot of conflicting opinion on this particular subject, but love this like snake dragon. It's awesome. Love the colors. Everything has, pretty significant meaning all in all. So we'll get into that as we go. Hope you guys enjoyed the new little clip, that astronaut flying through space. That's what I imagine this show is like for some people, especially the newbies out there who step in. You're really diving on into the Twilight Zone. So shout out to FMX also for the testing the truth edit that we do in that little transition. He put that together for me some time ago. So, and he also does editing work. So anybody who needs anything like that done, feel free to go and check him out. Okay, before we dive in too deep, I'd like to go ahead and just do our plugs, because once we get into conversations, I tend to forget. So 3 ways that you can support the show, all really, really awesome. My favorite way is going to be Rokfin. Go ahead and show some love over at Rokfin. If you do, you will be supporting not only myself, but all the other content creators out there on the Rokfin as well, like Jeremy Bird, experiencing the other way to support the show. That's awesome. We appreciate you. That was the Buy Me a Coffee ding. You can interrupt the entire show and have a message read by yours truly. I believe that message just said much love. I have to go back and look at it, but I appreciate you, Jeremy Bird, for the coffees. All right, so we got Rokfin, just $15.99 a month. You can support me, Jaronism, Karen B, Mellow Dome, and many, many, many more. So go ahead and check them out. But there's plenty of free content. So lots of us like to go over there just because it's a good catalog for our stuff. We don't have to worry about YouTube doing a whole bunch of unfair copyright strikes, getting throttled, absolutely throttled by the algorithms. On YouTube, I'll get only a few new subscribers off of a video, but on Rokfin, I'll get 100, 200. It's ridiculous. So we do appreciate them. So make sure you go and show them some love. You can show me some love and have your chat read by going to buymeacoffee.com/Tribune, or you can also have a message read by yours truly, although you won't have the annoying ding interrupt the whole show. So you have to wait for me to check it at the end, but that will be the Cash App, MrTribune. All the proceeds right now, just to let everybody know, are going towards a new setup, a new computer. I know you guys aren't blind. You're not deaf. I know you can hear the setup. The quality could definitely be increased a little bit, but it's going to take a little bit of money, a little bit of time. So I'm going to be chatting with Andrew B. and a couple others to ascertain the best path of which route to go. But that's a whole nother conversation. So not going to get into that right now, folks. If you haven't already, check out the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. Use referral code Tribune. Now, you might be wondering, why in the heck would I want to get another app on my phone? There's already so many. Well, this app right here actually is going to double down a couple of uses. For one, it's going to be a social media app. So you can find not only yours truly, but all the other flat earthers that may be in your area. And you will be surprised at how many there are. So definitely check that out. And then you can also check out, among the numerous other features, the video catalog that helps bypass those YouTube and Google unfair algorithm so you can get right to the juicy stuff. Save yourself hours and hours of research doing that. And make sure you use your referral code Tribune so that they know who sent you. Okay, so now that that is all out of the way, let's go ahead and get back to it. So, the True Earth debate. Sorry, that's Friday night, right? I'm excited for that as well. Go ahead and announce that. We're gonna have some special surprise guests come on and do a nice presentation. So be sure to tune in Friday night at 11 p.m. for that. But for tonight, we are going to be doing the True Fate debate, talking all about the serpent, as well as mankind's relationship with the universe and the symbology of it. So just to let everybody know, this is an open panel style show. I want to get more guests in here to have more dynamic conversations. So if you disagree, that's actually really, really good. I'm glad you're here. I'm actually going to post a link here right now, actually, to go ahead and get this going. So anybody at any time, go ahead and click that link. I'm going to make sure it gets pinned at the top of the chat. And you can go ahead and join the show and conversate about anything that I'm about to talk about. And while we wait for people to join, that'll give me, time to go ahead and go through some stuff. That way the show doesn't go on too long. I've seen some of my shows go on for like 5 hours, and I'm sure we can agree there's no need for that. We can get this done in like, 2.5 hours. Unless you guys just want to hang out, and then, that's a whole nother story. So we will we will get there when the time comes. But let me do just real quick, because I forgot to have it pulled up. That's going to be my bad. All right. And when I drop these, I'm going to go ahead and do the usual shout out. Everybody who's a regular knows I do like to go ahead and shout out the people who are in the chat hanging out. Really help making the show. We definitely appreciate you. So let's go ahead and... Why is it making me sign in again? My goodness. Okay. Sorry about that. Must have been an update. All right. There we go. Folks, we are doing it live, so you're going to have occasional hiccups like that. All right. Let's go ahead and get this link. Boom. All right. Let's take me just a second. All right, YouTube, let's go ahead and start over there. We'll do the shout out. It's going just a little slower than I want. Should be loaded already, but it's not. Alrighty. So for the YouTube, we got Doug Maurer. Let's go. Jeremy Bird. We appreciate the donation once again. Nuba, to tube or to rock? That is the question. Well, I do prefer you folks rock it up. We just got two more donations from the John Thomas, huh? Nice. I'm gonna have to go in there and actually read your guys' messages here in a second. That's gonna be awesome. I may have to, if that goes really, really well, I may have to make a whole nother section of the show and do that like towards the end or in the middle or something. Okay, let me finish calling these people out here. Water World, hey, thanks for coming on. McSlappin, what is going on? For those who don't know, I actually had the pleasure of meeting McSlappin over at the Flat Earth meetup that we had a couple months back. So, you guys definitely another reason to be on the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac app. We had people actually find us from that meeting, from that app. So, okay, Victor Brown, what is up? Oh, my chat is like, no, those are just the top. No, that's the live chat. All right. Oh, hey, it is what it is. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's go ahead and check out what's going on at the Rokfin. Always really big stuff going on over there. Okay. And for the Rokfin, we are going to have Nuba and Andrew B. What is up, my friends? What the heck? Did it boot on the Rokfin? Whoa. All right. Well, it's okay. We got it back. Sometimes it doesn't let us do that. So, all right. Currently watching 5 over there. Awesome. Well, hey, if you don't comment, we don't know you're there. So Nuba and Andrew B, huge shout out for you guys being the real ones. All right, let's go ahead and jump back on over. All right. So we got the link. Did I actually? I just shouted people out and didn't post the link. Awesome. All right. Posted. That's for Rokfin. YouTube. Post. Let's get it. Pin. There you guys go. Go ahead and click that link if you would like to join the show. For those who want to know just a little bit about my background, I don't subscribe to any mainstream religion. I take particular problems with religions that preach powerlessness and lack of responsibility. So I do take a particular beef with religions like Christianity. Not that I, judge any Christians or anything like that. It's not about hate. It's just about, being logical and being what I would like to consider, what's the best word for it? Being full spiritually, right? We don't want to be practicing watered down beliefs. So I think that there's a lot to do with that here. But in any case, let's go ahead and dive in while we wait for some people to join. And go ahead and pull up some of the stuff that I wanted to cover with you guys. Oh, that was actually pretty quick. Waterworld. Give me 1 second to add you to the stream, Jim.
Hey there, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Give me 1 second. Gotta adjust it just a wee bit. Oh, now we're really small. All right, 1 second. This is the part of the show that everybody loves more than anything. Me having to adjust things live because I use OBS to, cheap to use the paid services. So here we are. All right, let me go ahead and shut off my camera here. Let me do my transition. And there we go. It smooths out. Perfect. I love the astronaut flying through the tunnel there. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to deactivate that. Activate my camera here. So fun. All right. Yes, turn it on, please. All right. And then we got... Jeez, there's so much stuff. Gonna have to delete some of these scenes. All right, here we go. There we are. Took us a second, but we got it. Jim, welcome to the show, man.
There you are.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing tonight, Tribune?
I'm doing absolutely
doing okay, Tribune?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. And yourself?
Okay, you are gonna have you may have a very exciting show on Friday. You just may.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. A lot of really big things happening over on the Tartaria Cosmology Discord. That's for sure.
You may have all 5 Tartaria on Friday.
That's awesome. I'm gonna be honest with you. I already, because I got so much going on, I already forgot what the presentation was supposed to be on. But
I don't know. I think
you don't have to spoil
and I
it.
are going to present something that you might appreciate. It's going to be new. It's going to be Einsteinian. It's going to be that big. We're going back to 1905 and 1919. I just want you to know that. We're going to rock the world.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I'm excited for it. You seem like you're in a really good mood.
I survived Craig yesterday, so I'm in a good mood. Yes.
Yeah, things got pretty heated.
You know that I got banned 4 times in one day from Cosmology Tartaria, all by Craig, 4 times in one day. 12 hours. I got banned 4 times.
Well, I can believe it.
Oh
You
my goodness.
you can get really passionate.
Oh, what a loser he is.
uh,
Oh my goodness.
that's really funny.
Oh my goodness. I'm dying. I'm dying.
So I didn't even get a
Oh
chance
my
to
goodness.
I didn't even get a chance to like even jump into like the first talking point of the show before you jumped on. So let me go ahead and just kick it off. I know you're pretty familiar with you know, religious texts, you know, particularly the Bible and things of that nature. Is that fair to say?
I think I'm you know, better on the biblical cosmology. If you go a little bit into Revelation, what the Bible talks about Revelation, I'm halfway decent on. I think it all kind of depends where you go with it. I think that's the biggest thing.
So when you see a serpent, or when you see like a religious text or a temple or something depicting a serpent, what are your thoughts?
When I see a serpent, I automatically go back to Genesis and what happened there. And then some people have this serpent this serpent thought. It's called serpent deception among evangelicals, that Eve, in order to populate the earth, had sex with the serpent. And I think it was Genesis 4:1. Some people interpret that way. So some people say, Eve, because they had to populate the earth, had sex with the serpent, which I find absolutely unbelievably bad. But
Yeah, it seems some
I just
bestiality would
I
not be
just
good.
I don't understand that one at all. I hear that. I don't want to say often, but I hear from people that I don't know why they're saying it, because somebody's told them and they're just repeating it.
Well, what it is a and I actually agree with you on this point that that there isn't really great evidence to it, but it comes from the word translation, as usual, translation issues, right? And it's actually Genesis 3,
Oh,
that the serpent and the fall of man is in the Bible. So basically they're taking the word beguile, which basically means to seduce, and they're forgetting that language can be poetic. You know, it's like, and I'm not saying like as an excuse, like, oh well, that we can take other things to be poetic as well. I mean, you have to really read it. But when um, they're talking about, you know, basically seducing Eve into taking of the fruit, right? It's not a literal seduction in my opinion, but there are people that will bring up things like the differences in the seed, and they'll try to point to things like Eve being pregnant before it actually says that they were, you know, consummating, to have the trying to remember the sons' names, Cain and Abel. There's theories that Cain came first from the serpent seed, so to speak, and that Abel came from Adam's seed. And then there's also speculation that both of them came from the serpent seed, and that it wasn't until I think they had another set of children. I'm not super sure. There's a lot of people saying different things on it, but the thing that kind of gets me with it is that you when I asked you what you thought about it, you immediately go back to the serpent in the garden. If you had to like put like an ideal to it, most people would say something like deception, evil, lies, things like that. Would you, you know, tend to agree with that?
yeah, I think when you talk about the serpent generally in a biblical or spiritual standpoint, you always go back to deception, lies, evil. Um, Sadly, my mind goes to Second Thessalonians 2:1 through 17, goes to Ephesians 6:12, and goes to Revelations 12:1 through 9, which basically tells us that the devil, which can be synonymous with the serpent, is in charge of this world. Those three Bible areas specifically tell us that the devil is in charge of the world, and the devil is evil, deception, and things like what the serpent is known for.
Right, right. What if I were to tell you that the serpent is really only known for deception in Western slash Abrahamic worldviews?
You come down to deception. Um, is the deception a lie, or is it something not quite as bad as a lie? That's a really, really, good question. I would think if somebody wants to deceive me, then I would think they're probably lying to me, or they're trying to get something out of me that maybe I wouldn't give if they told me the truth. So in a lot of ways, that would be to me, that would be considered a lie.
Gotcha. So, give me one second. I clicked off for a second to check the chat. um, yeah, I appreciate the input in the conversation. Um, so the thing that I find interesting is that when you look at other religions like Hinduism, like um, well, pretty much when you look at all other Eastern philosophies, you get common themes of snakes being associated with rejuvenation, with wisdom, with subtle truth. One of the I can't remember exactly which one it is off the top of my head, but it might be multiple. But the fact that the serpents are usually hard to find, they're creeping in the grass and things of that nature. Which I know human instinct kind of tells you, oh, well, why would I want to associate with anything that's like creeping around, right? I'm not necessarily telling you to associate with it, by the way. I'm just pointing out a couple things of like what other cultures, what other people thought about it. And so there's actually depictions of serpents on certain deities like Shiva. There's serpents depicted around the I know you're familiar with this one, the staff of Caduceus that Hermes carries around.
Yeah, Hermes Trismegistus. Huh.
Right, right. What's his
Yeah.
I know you're somewhat familiar with the story of Hermes and like in that. What do you make of the serpent rod that he has? You make
Well,
anything of that?
the serpent rod is really, really interesting, because that same sort of serpent rod is also very similar to the serpent rod of allopathic medicine.
It's the
You,
same.
you'll see you'll see in the allopathic medicine, you'll have a serpent on that rod as well, going back to the early 1900s. So it's interesting how, this is just my opinion. I think it's interesting how there's a correlation between Hermes Trismegistus and that serpent rod, and the serpent rod that's on allopathic medicine, or what we call today's modern medicine. And they're both deceptions, and they're both to be looked at and kind of go, well, wait a minute, this isn't right. We can do better than that. But I find, yeah, I find, I go back to, it's possible that Nimrod wanted to, go to the sun, build a pyramid so he could become part of the sun worship. And then it's also very possible that Hermes Trismegistus, he basically talked about planets before any of these people talked about planets, like Copernicus and Kepler and Descartes. And so I just find it fascinating that they all have some sort of a rod with a serpent dealing with it. I mean, it's just interesting. Now, again, this is Western philosophy. This is not Eastern philosophy. I don't think the Chinese have the same negative deception toward the serpent that maybe Western civilization does.
Right. They absolutely don't. And I think that there's a theory behind that. I think that we're kind of being ushered in. You've probably heard me mention before that I think we're playing 5D chess with these so-called elite people. I think that it's very rarely that something is as black and white as in, um, that you can just see right through it, right? I think that things often are set in place to make us have a certain reaction, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that they're like let me point out something that's really, really easy for truthers to see: the false dichotomy between Republicans and Democrats. Right? Um, Obviously, we don't agree with everything that either party says, and that most parties are, full of absolute crap trying to achieve the same end. Um, but when we take a look at religion, right, and we take a look at spiritual faith, it's like we have a split dichotomy. We have one side saying that the other side is completely evil and that you shouldn't do it, and then the other side is literally saying that about, of course, right, saying the exact same thing about the opponent. Um, and so it kind of brings us to this point of like, well, shit, what what kind of direction are we supposed to go? And that's really where I start to, really look within and see what the creator resonates with me directly, as opposed to what's written in some scripture or told from some yogi master. Even that's something that people also really have to get, because a lot of people are like really, really into Eastern philosophies, but it's like that's still words of men. It's still coming right from the words of somebody's mouth. Somebody that, you can make an argument was trying to have a following. So in any case, it's like it's obviously fallacious to just take something that someone says on face value. Um, but I do find it interesting, especially when it comes to the serpent, because we have, and this gets rough, right? Because we're dealing now with things that are historical, and history is muddied as all get out. You and I definitely can't tell us, for sure what happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago. The further
That's
back it
right.
gets, the more muddy it becomes, and we're again relying on the words of men to tell us that, okay, this happened at this time and this happened at this time, and we radiometric dated this, so that's how we know this is this old, and blah 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 blah. Um, if we take any truth to like the written histories and like any kind of truth to the timeline of things that we can actually find, um, it really does seem to be that, well, we don't have the originals of anything, right? So I can't say that the originals are a certain age, right? But it does seem that um, the text that we have surrounding the Vedas, surrounding Egypt religion, Egyptology. I don't even know what the hell you'd want to call it. Cometicism, cometics, whatever. Um,
Yeah, you'll get back to Hermetic writings, which goes back to Trismegistus, and it goes back to alchemy. You can make an argument that Trismegistus is the father of alchemy
right.
and heliocentrism. He's definitely the father of alchemy, and Newton talked. Newton supposedly interpreted his green tablet that Trismegistus did, and then towards the end of his life, in the early 1700s, he said, "Please don't attribute all my alchemy writings," because he wrote over 1 million words on alchemy. Alchemy became morphed into modern science, but alchemy was that belief you could turn lead into gold, and Newton wrote a lot about that. And Newton saw, if Newton lived, he saw towards the end of his life it was crazy, so he didn't want to be considered crazy.
Well, the thing is that alchemy, and part of the reason why he probably didn't want to attribute it, is that alchemy is talks heavily in symbolism, and they when and you know this when you talk to, I'm not sure if you ever had the opportunity to talk to Masons, or anything like that, but when you talk to third degree Masons and things of that nature, you can get them to admit that, like the Bible says, there's milk for babes and meat for men, and they consider the mainstream interpretations of the religions to be milk for babes, and they consider the kabbalistic, occultic, secret teachings that happen in the background, the commentary, if you will, on the mainstream religions, to be the actual true religion. And you can definitely make the argument that, well, the Masons are the ones in control of everything, so why in the heck would you listen to them? Right? That's a
Yeah.
great argument. It's a great argument, right? Why would you want to listen to the people that are giving you the screw job, right? I certainly would think twice about that. But I take it like the gun argument. They kind of, because pride, ego, they brag, and so they feel like they're the special boys. That they're the people with the special knowledge. They really believe it. Whether it's true or not, you can make the debate for. But then they make the gun argument. This is basically like the common person shouldn't have this knowledge because if they did, they would completely misuse it and destroy themselves and everyone around them. And there's, if if there is truth in the secret teachings, I would say that's probably true as well. We know, we should know, being in the public sphere, interacting, me doing the True Earth debates on TikTok, I can tell that there is a lot of people who are um, not really ready to take responsibility in that regard for their for their spiritual selves.
Mm.
But it all
Th-
comes.
th- th- there's something going on with TikTok. It's whether you attribute it to the Chinese, which I really don't, but there's something going on with TikTok troubling, which deals with trying to put people in the thought pattern of one world government. They are trying to set up and have people believe that, I don't want to condemn lifestyles, but they're very big into LGBTQ. They are big into world government. They are huge in the globe. They are
Huge.
and they are huge into deceptions of, there's that, I don't know if you run across that Brian guy on TikTok, but he pushes the LGBTQ. He hand waves away vaccines being the cause of autism, the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella. Sometimes they throw the varicella, which is chickenpox, in with it. And so you have the reason I started TikTok October 7th. I think I was with you like 2 weeks later when I had the opportunity to talk to Baron and Photoshop Josh and McGloby the Globe Face all at one time. I had that privilege, and after I got done with that last debate a couple weeks ago, I just said no more to TikTok, because I am seeing that TikTok is really, really agenda driven. It's paid and it's evil. And I'm, if people want to stay on TikTok, that's great. I'm done. I still have an account there, but I don't get on there. I'm not going to close it out altogether. But TikTok is, there is, I kind of saw people warned me against TikTok before I went on there October 7th. A couple people did, said don't go there, but I went anyway because a friend of mine from the UK said go, and then I know Caleb's there, so I went there. But once I got there, I just noticed something that's just really, really off. And so I did my 4 months. I did my 4 months penance, and I'm done with TikTok. People can go on TikTok. I'm going to concentrate on. I got 4 things I'm concentrating on. Concentrated on Rokfin. I'm going to concentrate on Telegram, Discord. If they'll still have me, if Craig doesn't get me booted again off of Cosmology Tartaria, and one other one I forget. Oh, YouTube. So I think we're in an opportunity to really spread the news, spread the good word, and you're really going after the good word, which I think a lot of us appreciate. I know Shane appreciates what you're doing. He's going to be on Friday night, and so I would really, if anybody's listening, I would be really conscious of what TikTok is trying to push. Um, there's an agenda going on TikTok that's just pure evil. Rofkin, you can talk about anything. YouTube, you can't. Discord on Cosmology, you can. Um, TikTok is just weird. I mean, you can report people whenever you want to. They'll take you off of lives when you're on a live. They'll just knock you right out like that. It's just the weirdest platform, and I know a lot of people like it. I don't know I don't know. It's just weird. So I'm done. I'm done. It's just you were nice enough to moderate 2 out of 3 debates that I had there, and anyway, I rambled. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
I've obviously taken a lot of my focus away from TikTok as well. I mean, the numbers are nice, but I just really want to build something that's I just wanted to build more long form content. To be honest, I like that style of video more, and I like building a community that people that actually hang out instead of just stopping in you know 15, 20 seconds and then popping back out. Um,
You have the opportunity on Friday, if it works out fine, to have Shane Allen and myself, and to have Rufin and Demon. You have an opportunity to
that's
have
gonna be sick.
pretty opinionated type persons, on Friday, and you're pretty opinionated too, and so there's an opportunity to have 6 pretty opinionated people, and if you can possibly arrange it that 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5 basically show up every Friday night with you. I think there'll be people in the audience that might go, "Hey, that's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting." I think Alan's going to try to go on camera. He's kind of shy, but I think he's going to try to go on camera. I've asked him to be my debate partner if we ever go 2-on-2 debates. He's unbelievable,
He's real
and
good.
I don't know if you've seen his YouTube about relativity special in general, and about a time dilation, and going into Pond Repka, and how he takes apart general and special relativity. It's an hour and a half YouTube video. It's unbelievable. It's almost Austin like without being Austin. Almost.
Almost. Yeah, I'll definitely. I'm sure the audience will definitely appreciate that as well. So, I mean, you guys heard it. Friday night, we're gonna have a loaded cast. Come on down. Should be pretty spicy. So I have just to kind of steer us back towards the topic of tonight's show, because there's some questions that I have, and they're not like really contentious at all. It's like more philosophical than anything. There's not really a right or wrong answer per se. But I starts off. Well, starting question would be: Are you familiar with lucid dreaming, astral projection? And if you are, what are your opinions on that?
I have not heard that. Did you say? Did you say Luciferian?
No, that'd be a really good joke though. uh, lucid,
Luciferian projection. Yeah, there you go.
lucid dreaming or astral projection. That's where
Astral
you're.
projection.
That's where
No,
you're.
that's going to be yours.
Okay, so that's where you're. Ones where you're able to control your dream while you're asleep, like you become aware and you can
Oh
start controlling
wow,
things.
I have never been able to do that. I have. That would be interesting. I would just like to get like 12 hours sleep or 8 hours sleep sometime when I'm really tired. I can't get much more than 3 or 4 at one time.
The other thing would be astral projection is where you can actually, using the same type of mechanics that you do when you're lucid dreaming, you can actually project your spirit into the real world.
No, I've never experienced that, and I really have no opinion. I'll defer to you on that one.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just, there's opinions across the board on this. A lot of people think that it's demonic, that it's something that you shouldn't do, that the Bible preaches against it, even though um, I've never seen anything that directly preaches against astral projection. Just that you should test the spirits that you come in contact with. But the way that they want you to test the spirits is to do basically you should do the Deuteronomy the Deuteronomy 12 test, where you just basically compare them to the Torah. Um, which I'm like, dang man, if you're just always comparing it to the book that the people told you to compare it to, then it's a great way to stay under the thumb of some powers that be. But in any case, I tend to think that it's a natural gift that people have, and I actually think that it's something that the true meaning of it is suppressed. I think that if we figure out how to astral project, then kind of like it's like a muscle, right? So when people start talking about like what happens after you die, everybody starts talking about morality. And morality is like really important, don't get me wrong, but I don't think morality is important for when you die. I think morality is important for right now when we're alive. Um, I think that morality probably has nothing to do with how well you can do a push up. So it probably has nothing to do with how well you can astral project. It's just muscle memory. And if you figure out that muscle memory, then you can, when your body passes on, and this is the part that people would say is Luciferian. So this is where you may be chomping at the bit, but um, the idea that when your body passes on, you can hang on to consciousness and do one of multiple things: either reincarnate, stay as a spirit, um, all kinds of stuff. What do you think about that?
From a heliosorcery that Chris Sparks put together. You go back to, the guy's name is Alexandria or Alexandria, Alex something, Alexandria. He lived like 150 AD to 225 AD, something like that. If you believe that far back, I really don't. But there was this thought back back in that time, if you believe your history books, that man could become Superman, and that there were people that wrote, that the spirit passed on when you died, and it either became better or worse for them in the next life, which is New Age reincarnation, right down the word. So we think New Age and reincarnation is somewhat new.
It's
It's
old.
not. It actually goes back in the writings, goes back to 100, 200 AD. Very, very interesting that they were thinking about those things back then. Now, the only thing I can say on that, it comes down to this. This is my belief system. It's not everybody's belief system. But when you die, about 1 second after you pass from this earth, you're going to find out if there's a heaven or hell, and you're going to find out if there's new age or reincarnation. You're going to find out. It's going to be about 1 second after you leave this earth. Some people have died and come back, and they said, the time they were dead, their body, their spirit went above the deathbed, and they looked back at their body, and they were, and then they came back because the doctors brought them back to life. I believe that. Near death experience, I guess is what it's called. But when it comes to speculation on new age reincarnation, we're all going to find out pretty soon. Um, hopefully we can all live to 150, but we're not going to, and we're going to find out about these things pretty quickly. It's all speculation. I mean, I'm not in the new age. I'm not into reincarnation. I'm
What
not
if
into
it
any
didn't
of
have
that
to
stuff.
be? What if it didn't have to be speculation, right? Because if we're talking
I
about,
don't know if we can be sure.
so there, that is a fair point, right? Now you can, just like what we do with globe Earth claims, right? It's an extreme claim, so it obviously would have to pass through some rigorous testing, and I'm not saying that it has. But if what I'm saying is true, right, and possible, then you should be able to get somebody who is skilled enough, and you should be able to test the phenomena to see if it's real. And at least that's as far as like the astral projection goes. Now, to be able to prove out if somebody passes on after they die, right? You would have to somehow set up a test to have a very specific interaction happen after after that the body is passed is dead, right? To having a hard time finding better words, but it's kind of morbid. But
Well, it's a really tough subject. I just know that I personally don't believe. You know that I'm a little bit more of biblical cosmology, and I'm a little bit more of the Bible is the literal word of God.
But
and not just speculative. And, there's a lot of people that I know on the globe side who are quote Christian on the globe side that look at the Bible and they go, well, that's interpretation, and this is the real thing. It's just like interpretation, real things. Like, how do you know? So anyway, I'm a little bit more of a literalist, and I don't understand it all. So if I don't understand it, I'm okay with that. But there is enough of the Bible that you can understand yourself, and I'm basically a literalist when it comes to that. I am totally, Genesis 1, 31 verses, first 31 verses, 1 through 19 talks about starting at the water and ending in the sky. In Genesis 1, 14 and 19 ends in the sky. And then obviously towards the end of the first chapter, it goes at least 7 times. God says after its kind, which means debunks evolution. And then when it comes to viruses, which we talked about a few weeks back, God said after the first 5 days it was good, and at the 6th day he said it was very good. So Satan cannot create, and if you believe in Satan cannot create anything. Only God can create things. God wouldn't create viruses. So Genesis, the first 31 verses of Genesis 1 debunks evolution, debunks the globe, and debunks tiny invisible microbes that cause illness, disease, and death. Debunks it all. First book, first chapter, first 31 verses of the Bible, globe, evolution, viruses, gone. It's amazing.
Well, it's a lot less impressive when you consider that flat Earth was pretty prevalent back in the day, and that the lie that we're dealing with actually is relatively new.
It is.
All things considered, I saw there was an article that just came up. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like from the 1900s, and they were talking about it. All the different proofs that we know that the Earth is not in fact spinning. But I will say that the attempt at the globe lie has definitely been going on for, well, I can't say definitely, but definitely seems to have been going on for quite a while. That's for sure. Whether we bought it, was a whole nother story. But we were definitely arguing about it 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's fascinating that you have the Latin Vulgate, which is what the Catholic Church allowed people to, the Bible, the Latin Vulgate, which is what the Catholic Church allowed people to read if they could read anything, because with Catholicism, you don't read your Bible, you listen to the Pope or your priest. And so you can look at heliocentrism, sun-centered, started with Copernicus if he lived. Copernicus supposedly lived 1473 to 1543. He dedicated in May of 1543 on the revolution of the heavenly spheres to the Pope at the time, and then they killed him off in the script the exact same month of May 1543. So you can make the argument that heliocentrism, the round globe Earth, is 500 years old. That's it. It's 500 years old. And you can make the argument that Descartes, Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, Kepler did not live. You can make that argument. You look at Newton, born 1643, had the apple fall on top of his head in 1666 at age 23. And
Dead instantly.
it's just amazing. I think we can say Darwin lived. I think we can say his grandfather, Erasmus Darwin, lived, who started evolution in the UK. But you can make the argument that the 5 great people that brought us heliocentrism were a Catholic invention or a Jesuit invention, because 1545 supposedly the Council of Trent started, and then 1563 it was over, and the Jesuits had taken over the Catholic Church starting in 1563, and all they wanted was a round ball Earth. And in their Douay Rheims that came out in 1610, they basically said in Isaiah 40:22, they called it the sphere of the Earth, the only version of the Bible that talks about the sphere. So yeah, it's 500 years old, Trebling. That's it.
Makes sense to me. I mean, again, assuming that we can trust the datings of anything, right, and that we're not.
Yep, I agree.
So there is a bit, there is assumptions with it, but we kind of have to deal with it. But here's something that again, just to kind of steer it back to it is the true fate debate, right? The fate of humanity, and there is like, so the idea is, right? I'll just go out and say it, right? So in your worldview, if someone doesn't come to the realization that um, Yeshua or Jesus, whatever, I don't get hung up on the names too much because the principle of it is the same. Um, that if someone doesn't come to the idea or the fact that Yeshua is the Messiah or the anointed one, the one that's to intercede for mankind's sins against Yahweh, or I don't even remember the other pronunciation, like Yadve, Odve, or something like that.
Hmm.
But if someone doesn't come to that realization, then they either will be destroyed or be burning in hell for forever when they die, or upon the judgment time, whichever dichotomy you subscribe to. I tend to think that the original Bible doesn't say anything about hell; that it says Sheol, which is just the great sleep, and that nobody is aware to quote sing God's praises until the judgment day when everybody gets brought up, the sea give and the ground give up their dead, and then everybody from the least to the greatest is judged, and then the people who did not obey the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be dashed apart like the potter's vessel. So that's what it says. Um,
Yeah, I look at, once we pass from this earth, whether we sleep for a while and then judged, or if we're judged right away.
does it matter?
I think some people have an opinion on it. I really don't. I do believe there's a heaven and there's a hell, and if I ever talk to somebody about it, I say, most of us live 60 to 90 years in this good world. We know it's not a spinning Kirby ball anymore, but so 60 to 90 years, and then we die, and then we face eternity in 1 trillion years with 12 zeros. Eternity will have just started. So if you think about that, we live 60 to 90 years here on this earth, and then we face eternity, and even 1 trillion years, it's just starting. That puts a lot of pressure on people. I understand. Um, it takes you back to the fact that how you live your life matters. Um, it's just a real tough thing for people. We have a hard time wrapping our heads around getting through work next month, or getting through, through Christmas. How am I going to buy enough presents for Christmas? And people get all hung up on Christmas presents. Can you get hung up on the fact that eternity, 1 trillion years, is just the start of eternity? I don't think people can grasp that. It's very, very hard to grasp. Um, it's a tough subject for people to talk about.
Absolutely. That's part of the reason why I like talking about it, though, right? And it's something that if society can talk about more candidly, maybe we can start getting somewhere. I know that some people share the opinion that talking about this stuff is actually negative, and that it actually doesn't help anything because everybody's so stuck in their ways. But I would disagree completely. I think people that think that have absolutely no ability, or I'll say very little ability, to probably effectively communicate spiritual ideas, unfortunately. And I won't say everybody under the sun is like that. That's a blanket statement, but I will say a lot of people are like that. In my case, because I've had um, direct personal experiences, and I won't say like I've been eating dinner or I've been in a situation where I needed a miracle and I got that miracle. Nothing like that. But I've had a literal experience where I was outside of my body, and I can prove that I was outside of my body. Well, at least to the people, at least anecdotally, right, with the people that know me, to myself, and to the people that were involved in that particular incident. I can prove it to that regard. And I can set up tests, right, to where we can try to prove it out more definitively. Now, other people have already set up the tests, The Monroe Institute's a really big institute that has studied sleep phenomena and lucid dreaming, astral projection in depth. Even supposedly has gone as far as to map out the astral world. And then you have the skeptics, obviously, that will go around and just try to say that because they haven't personally seen the evidence that means that it doesn't exist. But then they'll go around with the blinders on, right? Like Globers to flat Earth. Will go around with blinders on when people are like, "Hey, we have set up a test where we're in a completely separate room. We'll go to sleep at the same time, have the same exact dream. We'll not meet up with each other, but we'll have a three-way phone call with you and be able to tell the exact same story." There's things like that exist, and it's not even like it's just like a handful. There's like thousands of instances of people having out of body experiences and near death experiences. Um,
There
so
are.
so it's like we can comfortably say that there is a soul that inhabits this body. Now, the question then becomes, if the soul that we possess is something that is like our body, right? Your body is something that you manipulate. If you don't use your hands do nothing. If you don't decide to use your eyes, decide to use your ears, you're not gonna do anything. But I think the same thing is with the spirit. If you don't actively practice how to move, how to operate, how to control your intention when you're asleep, when you're basically unconscious, let me simplify this even further. If you don't learn how to be conscious while you're unconscious, then when the ultimate unconscious comes, you will be fucked, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word.
That's a very, very interesting comment. I know there are two people on Tartaria that would be a very interesting conversation for you for maybe afterlife experiences, what they think afterlife experiences might be like. One is Shane, and the other one you may or may not know. Her name is Blaze Nazarene, Blaze of the Nazarene.
Mm.
Both of those two would be a really good conversation for maybe what you might think the afterlife might be like. That's not a traditional biblical one, heaven and hell. Those two might be a very, very interesting conversation. Um, I like to have one with them, but we haven't had a chance yet. But I've heard them discuss it, and I think they both of them would give you a really good perspective. So maybe for another Wednesday night when you have your fate discussion, you're on Tartaria now. You can look up Blaze, and of course you've talked to Shane already,
Oh yeah, we're getting
and
them on.
maybe have both them come on a Wednesday night because I think that would be a really good conversation.
I think that it's I've invited Shane on to the show, but he's more interested in the true Earth debates, and I think that might be because my particular position um, is like the black sheep. Really, there's for the most part, people in the flat Earth community are Christian centered, and even if they're not directly Christian, they still carry a lot of Christian beliefs in with their faith, whatever that may be. One of those being the whole um just the whole idea of the god being separate moralities, or there being like a Satan and a god. I think that is completely contradictory. It literally, even in the Bible, says that God does all things. Like, he literally does all things. So he puts the
I,
adversary in front of you. That's literally how the stories go. This whole idea that it's some antithesis of God. It's an anti-God that's coming on and trying to steer us away from the actual God is ridiculous, right? If it is, it's exactly like the Bible said, where it's like God is doing it, and he's doing it as a testing block to you, to see if you really love his laws and statutes that he put in this holy book. Which is, again, is the whole reason why I don't subscribe to it. I don't subscribe to it because if you read it without making mental backflips for it, and I'm not talking like the mistranslations. Like, forget about the King James that adds all those things in about the Trinity. Forget about the NIV New English Version. Forget about all that. Literally go back all the way to the Greek Septuagint, cut through all the translation issues, and read it. Don't make mental gymnastics, just read it point blank. And you will see that it is very, very obviously designed to get somebody to be completely submissive and obedient to their government and to their surrounding authority. I know it says priests, but like people need to understand how authorities actually came about in the first place. We didn't just start off with these cities and with these powers, right? We started off as like these little communities, maybe a family or two. A third family comes in. Now they're, building up. Now there's like five families, a generation or two down the line. Now they're starting to develop a religion. The the eldest of the village was the one who made the religion, because the religion was just simply whatever they believed, and whatever they believed was going to be primarily dictated by whoever held the most trust. So, and that evolves into a priest, which evolves into advisor for the kings, which evolves into all this other BS that we have today. um I just don't think that there's truth in everything, right? But I don't think that we can. Yeah, I just don't think we can take it as the literal word of God, and I think it'd be foolish to do so.
How do you feel about Genesis 1:16 to 17? This is the question I ask people. And I didn't even think about this till a year ago. I mean, I lived up my whole life thinking that the sun illuminated the moon until I saw something late February of 2022. I looked between two houses, and darn it, the sun was down at 5 o'clock, and the moon was, being illuminated up about 1:30. So in other words, direct line of sight. The sun was not illuminating the moon. So I started going, and so now I have 6 videos. 3 of them I did myself, where the illuminated part of the moon is not pointing towards the sun, and I find that fascinating. So I ask people this: how does people feel about Genesis 1:16 to 17, where it says God placed 2 great lights in the sky, one for the day, one for the night? Obviously, day, sun, moon, night, and the stars. My point is this: if God is right on that one, in other words, we've been taught since age 5 that the sun illuminates the moon, since age 5. We've been taught that, and the Bible teaches something directly opposite, and then I see it that the Bible's right and what I've been taught since age 5 is wrong. So I think maybe I should give the Bible a break, because Genesis 1:16 to 17 is so correct, and I've been lied to about that forever. So I always ask people, how do they feel about Genesis 1:16-17? God placed 2 great lights in the sky, one for day, one for night, and the stars. Of course, that knocks out the universe and galaxies and black holes and stuff like that. But do people, even flat earthers, I hate to use that term because we're stationary topographical planers, do flat earthers understand that, hey, maybe the Bible's right, that the sun does not illuminate the moon, that the moon is self-illuminating? How do you
Well,
feel
it's
about that?
so I can agree with the certain parts of the book and not agree that the whole book is the perfect word of God. And also, it's not the only book that talks about the layout of the celestial bodies like that. So it's just the one that you've been the most exposed to, and that's a thing for like the Westerners in general. Is like, when it comes to like Western philosophy, this is just the philosophy that we're exposed to the most. It's what our parents and grandparents and great grandparents have all been exposed to, because the Catholic Church sent over people to go murder all the indigenous people to go spread the faith. Um, I mean, it's not heavily debated that that's what happened. That is, pretty much
Yeah.
what happened across the board. And this is actually a common thing. There's a reason that I believe that that these other cultures were demonized and destroyed by Abrahamic faiths. I think that And this is where we kind of get into the crux of worldview. I think that you might be potentially falling for a double bluff, in that they present to you the Bible in a way that makes it so that you are the most likely to believe in it if you are going to be a threat to them, if that makes sense. If you're not going to be a threat to them whatsoever, you're just going to believe in the mainstream narrative, face value. You're going to take their shots. You're going to, do whatever it is that they tell you to do and take the soft kill. If you are a little bit of a threat, you're going to question things. You're going to start looking at things with a critical eye and start thinking, what's not adding up? What can, um, where are things not adding up? And then you start see these certain things. And this is where I go back to the idea again. We're playing 5D chess. This is something that's not that contentious. This is something that regular video game nerds do on a daily basis, just planning 3 or 4 moves ahead of their opponent. That's it. That's all it takes. 3 or 4 moves. And knowing a general idea of how people are going to react, which they know now thanks to religion and mainstream media. So people are falling into really specific reactions. So they basically set it up to where you learn about the Bible, but they don't really give you any like evidence of it, right? They just tell you about it. And so you learn it and then you reject it when you get into school because they teach you all this science, right? And
Yeah.
science you then find out is complete, not scientific method, but you find out that all the things that science claim to be true is BS, it's bullshit. So then you fall back into Christianity, of course, because, well, what else is there to fall back into? You get caught in the false dichotomy of there's only 2 different ways that it could be, when in actuality there's like 7 to probably 15 different ways that it could be. Nobody knows for sure the way that it could be, but it's just a few different ways are put forward really, really heavily. One is New Age spiritualism, which the way that it's presented is completely asinine. It's basically like The Secret, wish it, want it, do it. There's no actual effort. There's no actual goal in mind except for the selfish need to want to live forever. It completely rejects. It does basically completely reject the idea of complete moral responsibility. I totally get that, and that's why I don't subscribe to it. But they're hijacking something that is very, very, very old, something that tracks back from ancient destroyed religions from like African tribes that we're not even taught about. When you look up on Google, what are the oldest religions? You get taught um, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, Jainism, Christianity. You get taught these religions. There's a religion called from the Yoruba people that's literally over 5,000 years old. Over
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years old. And they are one of the oldest depictions of the chakra centers of Nagas. The certain like serpent type people. That's pretty wild that they have like mythic creatures in their mythos as well, cryptids that probably existed. And it's believed that they actually brought over the information to the Sumerians and the Egyptians, which then took it and brought it over to the Indians. So, like everything that the Indian pantheon is about and that the Indians are practicing with their yoga and their chakra centers is really just a watered down version of this ancient African religion that nobody is taught about at all. Um, and so that when things like that, these are things that like raise red flags to me. It's like, why in the hell do they want us to not know about this certain type of stuff? And the reason is because obviously knowledge is power. And when we start talking about metaphysical stuff, and this is stuff that I've learned firsthand from being in lucid dreams, from being in the astral realm. Even though I was only in the astral realm once, you pick up a lot of things when you're there, mostly how the mechanics work, and it's literally like you would be an infant, Jim. If you left your body right now, you would be as an infant, unable to know how to even crawl. It's ridiculous. This is stuff that you basically have to relearn it, and you have to learn that you move just based on your pure intention, and your intention is as thin as the wind. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's whimsical, right? It's like that's where the word I think comes from. It's on a whim. And so to learn how to focus your intention when you're in that state of mind and that state of lack of body, I think that's probably that's probably what we're supposed to be doing. Because again, when you don't have attachment to your body, that's the state that you're in. So, and that's kind of what the Egyptians practiced. It's I can't remember who exactly said it, but it's like those who don't fear death or those who die daily. And the death that they're talking about daily is when you go to sleep. It's literally it's like prepping you for death, if that makes sense.
I find a lot of us, and I haven't really thought about this. I have my parents who passed away, one in 1999, and then one in 2018. And I go, what's it like? I guess they say your sodium levels, you're somewhat lucent, and then your sodium levels just go off. They just drop, and that's one way you know that somebody's ready to leave the earth, because your sodium levels drop, whether you're at home or in the hospital. I just kind of wonder, if I'm 90, 95 years old and I'm kind of knowing these things, and maybe I'm not real lucid, but the hospital staff is telling me, or my wife is telling me, whatever, your sodium levels are dropping. And I know that I'm going to be gone within 12 hours. Let's just say 12 hours. What do I think about in those last 12 hours? Most of us, and I'm quite a bit older than you are, I've never, ever thought about that. I've never thought, if I have 12 hours to live, what do I think about? You know, because how can you mentally and spiritually prepare for eternity? I don't see how you can. I mean, I just don't know. And so it's just an interesting thing. Um, Again, we don't think about death, but my dad was 95. He lived pretty good, but he really went downhill the last 2 3 months. And then even my wife's parents, when their sodium levels drop, it's like, okay, it's kind of like the body's way of going, hey, we're not going to be here much longer. It's kind of strange. Sodium levels drop, they die. I don't understand it. I
Well,
don't get it.
sodium helps you transmit electricity in your body.
Yeah,
So it makes
yeah,
sense to me that, if your sodium levels are dropping, you're not transmitting that
yeah,
electrical life force through your body as much. So just kind of
yeah. And
leaves.
sodium, I guess, is salt. I
Yes.
guess it's salt. And they say if you lose salt in your body relatively quickly, it can drive shock to your body and cause it to shut down, which can bring death as well. But it's just something that I might start thinking about. I really don't want to think about death, but it's just like, if you were told that you got 12 hours to live because your sodium levels are dropping and you're somewhat lucid and you can recall what that means, what do you do? I mean, you know, you got 12 hours to go. And
I
I don't
pers
know.
I personally think you'd do a little bit better if you had some practice, though. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Might be a little less daunting
I haven't
if you
practiced. I haven't practiced, so
and I think that's what I think that's what mostly the mainstream religions, try to keep you away from. Even the New Age spiritualism, right? New Age spiritualism, when you look at it, literally just tells you to meditate, and that's it. It's like you can't. No, that's not. That's literally not everything that you need to do. Like I said, morality is something that's actually really important. So it's just not the type of morality that that people are thinking when they think of the Bible. Like I have to listen to the morality of this book, and that's going to mean the thing. It's your own morality that you hold yourself to when you know that you've done wrong, when you know that you have something that you're meant to do, and that you fall short of it, and you feel that shame. That is sin to me. It's not anything that has to do with following the arbitrary rules of another. But that just might be the rebel in me speaking. Who knows?
No, I just say, I just ask people, don't overthink the Bible. Um, as I've been on social media for the last year and a half, um, I just people go on, do live streams, whether it's Instagram or wherever it is, and they look at the Bible and they go, no, 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 wrong, 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 no, no, wrong, wrong. Or they say, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand. I said, that's fine. If you don't understand it, that's fine. If you want to look into it, you can. But if you don't understand it, it's okay. Find those things you do understand, and if it resonates with you, that's great. Live with it. If it resonates, if it doesn't resonate, then you got to come up with the idea that, hey, I'm not going to live forever, obviously. And what if? What if the Bible's right? What if the Bible's wrong? If the Bible's right and there's a heaven and hell and eternity is forever and 1 trillion years is just the beginning of eternity. Those are some things you gotta sit back and go.
Let me ask you this. And this will be a cool question to dive into this little rabbit hole. If you had a way to communicate more directly with God, would you?
We have, and the answer is yes, but we have this is my opinion, okay? We have you have an owner's manual in your car or whatever you drive. And if you have a problem, you usually go to your owner's manual and you open up to the page you need and you take care of your car. So, owner's manual to us is the Bible. That's the owner's manual. Some people go, well, my owner's manual is prayer. Okay. And I think this is my opinion. I think a lot of Christians troubling go, I'm a baller. I'm a glober, even though I love God and I read the Bible, but God would have told me somewhere along the line through prayer that I didn't live on a ball. Well, God did tell you. You didn't have to wait for prayer. He told you in the Bible you didn't live on a ball. And he didn't tell you 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. He told you 20, 40, maybe 200 times you didn't live on a ball. So I know a lot of people that go, if I lived on a stationary plane and not a ball, God would have told me through prayer. Like, no, he didn't. It's your Bible. It's right there. It's the owner's manual. You have an owner's manual for your car, and you have an owner's manual for perhaps how where you live and what shape the earth is. You don't have to wait for prayer. Just look in the Bible. It tells you right at the beginning. Then it tells you, I got here. I have like 4 presentations now. I'm working on one for physics, relativity, and I'm working on one for geocentrism. But I have 4 other ones that I've already prepared in case anybody ever wants to talk to me about it. And I got 20 verses that I'll talk about foundations, 4 corners, pillars, and ends of the earth. Well, you don't find those on a ball. You don't find any of those 4 things on a ball. And so it's like, don't wait for prayer to tell you don't live on a ball. Look in the Bible. It tells you right there. And it's just like, and my family's like that. My whole family's ballers, except for me. I decided to go weird on them, and I've been disowned. And so mostly viruses. I had to throw flat earth in there at the end. But I don't know. I don't talk negative about people. I don't talk negative about the rapture, pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. I don't talk negative. I just ask people to look in the Bible, think what makes sense to you, and move on. That's all you can do. I try not to judge people. I never talk LGBTQ. I never talk gay issues. Abortion is basically already divided, so I don't talk abortion, even though I have a very strong opinion on it.
Incredibly strong
So,
opinion on abortion.
you know, a lot of these
Terrible.
things we're talking to tonight, I have an opinion, but it's not real strong. Um, my opinions are the history of the United States, viruses, and the ball. Those are my real strong opinions.
You know, I was still trying to find something from the because I watched Heliosorcery, but I didn't find a source that was like actually had it that Hermes was talking about the was the first one talking about like the heliocentric model. I'd find that super interesting. Um,
Actually, you can go back to Nimrod because they built the pyramid supposedly because Nimrod wanted to get to the sun, and the Catholic Church, I guess, I don't think Hermes Trismegistus really lived. I think he's just another invention of the Catholic Church. But going back, if he wrote these things, he was writing about planets a long time before Copernicus ever did. And so, um, and the Catholic Church had a depiction of Trismegistus walking around with those orbs, those little orbs that Copernicus had, and it was Newton that came out with the idea of gravity and expanding the solar system out to 6 planets. Everything before Newton was these little orbs that, revolved around each other inside of a little ball. And it was Newton that came out and said, no, it's an orbit and it's gravity that holds it all together. Fascinating. This heliocentrism lie has so many holes to it, so many things they make up. It's just unbelievable.
oh, I totally believe every one of them.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. I'm I tell you what, troubling. These globers on social media, Discord, TikTok, Facebook, man, there's something going on with them. I don't know what it is, but there's something going on.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate the your point of view, having the conversation. I just I tend to take the position of um basically the position of like responsibility. If we have the ability to basically be our soul, which we do when we're asleep, that's 100% fact. We have the ability to it's not just something that you have, it is you. And it actually controls your body. So go figure, right? I just think that that's something that we would be absolutely foolish. We'd be 100% out of our depth if we did not learn that, learn how the astral body worked, how the spirit body worked. After all, I mean, regardless of what worldview you come from, it's part of God's creation. And on top of that, this is my personal worldview. Haven't seen anybody or haven't seen anything in the Bible that says that you are not supposed to astral project. So, but I'm welcome to correction on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually make the argument if I was still a Bible believing Christian, or even a messianic, 'cause I went through that phase as well. I would still make the argument that, well, the Bible doesn't say anything negative about astral projection, so it's totally fine. The problem becomes when you astral project and then you gain some information that you weren't really supposed to have because God didn't give it to you directly, supposedly. Which I think that that's also bullshit. I think that that's just a way for the people at the top to say, "Look, I got the special knowledge from God, and nothing that you ever come up with will ever be the special knowledge from God." I think that's what they do.
Very cool.
That's
Well, I'll just tell people who are listening now. Um, Friday, if you're into the ball versus the stationary topographical plane, you're going to have two very articulate persons on the globe side. If Rufy shows up, so I think Demon is definitely going to show up, and I think you're going to really enjoy Alan because Alan is coming out of his shell. He's a little bit shy, but I think he might go on camera because he's going to get used to debating. And Shane is of course very outspoken, and so it's going to be, if you're into the globe versus the flat, Friday night could be really really good. Um, could be very entertaining if you're into that stuff.
No, I'm not into it at all. I just host these debates
Yeah.
For what? I'm just kidding.
You're into these debates for the coffee. I know.
Yeah, it's for the coffee. No, it's honestly, I just anybody in my personal life can tell you I just love to argue. I'm a debater through and through, a hard-headed Sagittarius also, so I like to be the center of attention. So yeah, I mean honestly, it's just how I am. So I find contentious issues and I want to talk about them. So take it for what it's
Well,
worth.
there's absolutely nothing wrong. You will make people think, and you'll grow your audience, and that's what it's all about.
Oh yeah. I actually had a little bit of a little bit of some stuff that I wanted to present. I thought that it would take like honestly like 30 minutes before somebody would jump on. So I appreciate you jumping on so soon. But it's I want to get off here by like 1 o'clock. So probably gonna
So
go ahead.
I'll get off, and I'll let you do your stuff, and I'll see you on Friday. How's that?
Absolutely, Jim. I really appreciate it, and
Yeah.
I'm looking
Th-
forward massively to your presentation.
Thanks, Trebling. Take care.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Let me go ahead because it didn't look like anybody else was coming in the meeting anyway. So go ahead and cover just a little bit, and we'll go ahead and call it a show. I appreciate everybody tuning in. So let me go ahead and where are we at? Disable. My goodness, that's a whole process that we got to do every time. Okay. Here you guys can look at my astronaut warping through space. Absolutely incredible. So, okay, where are we at? Get back to yeah, I saw some really good comments as well that I wanted to address. I think that both sides of the fence, right? It's really awesome, and it is hard to make a definitive conclusion, right? Because if there is a big, massive conspiracy, then it could very easily be one or the other, where we're pretty much just trying to decide which conspiracy, um, which side of the conspiracy you're on, right? Is it the Abrahamic faiths are the true religion, and all those other religions are man-made lies, or are we, looking at the aftermath of an aggressive campaign to sell a certain class of beliefs to the people, so that the elite could, uh, put another nail in the coffin of control? Who knows? But one thing I did want to talk about before we got too far ahead was some of this serpent symbology, some cool things that I came across, and as well as something that I found on TikTok too, kind of revealing some ancient mystery as well. So before I do that, though, let's go ahead and do a shout out for the chat here. We got Pau over on the YouTube. I'm probably gonna butcher this. Pacao McCliver. Wow, I know I butchered that. Old saying, the sky's the limit, literally saying that you can go past the sky or firmament. That's true. Call for zero. I agree with that 100%. I don't see discarding various spiritual views because my parents' book directs me to. Absolutely. Dan and Dixon, Rebel Nazarene, basic instructions before leaving Earth. I would challenge that greatly, actually. Again, I think that if you just rely on the Bible, you're going to have absolutely no ability to manipulate your soul whatsoever when you die, and you're just going to be like an infant, and you're just going to fade into nothing, essentially. Jeremy Bird, owner's manual for the Bible itself. It's pretty good. Rebel Nazarene, um, Fire Drake. What else do we have here? Salted Cedar. Welcome back, my friend. FE Nation, Jeremy Bird, Effed Up World, MX Slapping. Okay, Victor Brown, we're back. All the way back to the top there. Let's go over to the Rokfin. Who's over on the Rokfin? Nuba. Huge guest over there. Thanks a ton. Andrew B. Oh, somebody else does want to go ahead and join the call. Why the heck not? Robel, give me just 1 second to get you in the stream, my friend. Or actually, you're not going to be on camera, so I guess I can just leave it as it is if that's cool with you. He has left the meeting. No worries. All right. Well, let me go ahead and cover some of this gravy that we got here. So some of the stuff that we were talking about, with the serpent symbology, it is very true here in the Western world. We basically get the idea that serpent means death, evil, deceit. After all, Satan was a serpent. Satan was the father of lies, supposedly. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. The first thing that I wanted to talk about really was in the scriptures, right? We get this story, Genesis chapter 3, of the fall of man. But let's go ahead and take a look on did the serpent in the garden actually lie? So I know I'm probably going to get tons of hate from the Christians for this one, but it is what it is. And I have reasons for thinking the way that I think, so you can take it for what it is or leave it. Don't really care. In any case, I appreciate everybody who is tuning in. If you do find some value, you find this content enjoyable, the best thing that you can do, and it's free, is to share the show. Go ahead and blast it into your group chat, send it out to your family. Let's get some people to see this content so that we can get a diverse conversation going. Okay, so Genesis chapter 3 basically goes something like, and the serpent was the most clever and crafty beast of the land. And he approaches Eve and tells her that she can eat of this fruit. Okay, so let's go ahead to Genesis chapter 3. Again, we are observing if the serpent was the one who lied in the garden. Okay? Now, in my book, it says the Nahash because it's a transliteration. So, again, you're going to have to bear with me. And the Nahash was more crafty than all the lives of the field, which Yahweh, Yahuwah, had made. And he said to the woman, and it is rude. It is true. Sorry, rude. Right? And it is rude. It is true that Elohim said, do not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said to the Nahash, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees and of the garden. Is that somebody trying to jump on in? Robwell, welcome back. About to give people this little Bible lesson. You are muted, my friend. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, yo, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, this is my first time joining your show, and I haven't used Google Meet before, so I was having trouble like figuring out how to make it have access to my mic. But I think I figured it out now, so it's all good. Sorry, I didn't mean to completely interrupt your little
Oh, you're fine.
Genesis,
It's
yeah,
literally
Genesis 3 thing.
it's literally for this, right? So that we can make sure that the show stays full. But I am going to be wrapping it up here pretty soon, so I do want to get through just a few points of that as well. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was enjoying your conversation with Waterworld. I would say I more align with his worldview
Mhm.
more than yours. As a Bible believing Christian myself, I'm actually Rebel Nazarene from the chat. That's who I am.
Oh, nice. Yeah, welcome to the
Yeah,
show.
thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. What I want to say. I'll just make it real quick because I know you have some stuff to get to. Okay. The first thing that pops to my mind is you had mentioned something about astral projection and how you thought maybe the Bible doesn't condemn such thing.
Right.
Well, I would argue that it does. Maybe it wouldn't say it outright or like explicitly, but if you look in Deuteronomy chapter 18, for example, starting at verse 10 or even 9, which God calls these things like an abomination, like something that like he's very disgusted by or just highly condemns.
Can you read the
Yeah,
verse specifically that you're talking about that talks about astral projection?
yeah. So in Deuteronomy chapter 18, starting at verse 9, verse 10 says, um, well, okay, so verse 9 says, when you come into the land which the Lord thy God gives to you, you shall not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. And so he starts to list things off in verse 10, right? So he
I
says,
I actually have it right here. Give me 1 second. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, spirit practice. I did a show on this last week. Spirit practice demonized in the Bible. Go ahead and pull this up. Deuteronomy 18:10 through 11. Let no one be found among you who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices divination, or a user
Mhm,
of magic, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer.
mhm.
11. Or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For these are abominations.
Mhm.
So, where in that was the astral projection?
That would be under the umbrella term of divination, because when you Google the definition for divination, one that comes up at the top is the practice, the practice of seeking knowledge or the future, um, of the future by the unknown, or the unknown. Wait, sorry, the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown by supernatural means. And then there was another one I saw on my phone earlier. Excuse me, sorry, I don't know what something in my throat, but let me see what I see earlier on
What
my
if you're not
phone.
seeking knowledge though? For just for starters, just to throw
Well,
just to be devil's advocate, right?
um, hold on, I need to get a drink. Well, wait a minute. I thought that was one of the things you said that you because you sort of made an analogy, or you associated that this act of astral projection as to like something about like how Christians would denounce it by saying, oh, it's not like knowledge given to you directly by God, therefore
Right.
it would be wrong. So that's why I brought it up.
Sure. And I'm just again, I'm not saying exactly how I use it or how I feel about it just yet. Because that again, I can go into this for quite a while, but specifically, I'm asking, what about someone who literally is not seeking knowledge? It's just they're existing, right? They're just existing in their spirit body. I mean, you're not seeking anything, you're not looking for anything, you're not talking to spirits. You're just there, in a dream that's the real world, but not really.
Okay. So then, what would be the purpose of it? Just to like have fun, like just for entertainment?
Does it matter? Is it a sin or is it not? We're talking
I
about, is the
I
action itself uh,
I mean, how
an
are you?
abomination?
Well, I think it depends, right? Like, I mean, I don't have.
I
I
would
think
say
I've
it.
only at.
I would say that most things in the Bible, it doesn't really depend. The action that is a sin is considered a sin, and the only thing that does depend on is if the person was aware of it or not. And the only difference is the type of sin offering being made. Not that they don't have to make an offering. So, um, yeah, I'm just not really sure where. Um, again, if we can, basically where I'm getting at is that if we can have a scenario where you're astral projecting and it's not a sin, then astral projection is not the sin. Something else is the sin, right? Like in other things in this verse, right? Divination, pulling knowledge from the future. If you astral project and then you pull knowledge from the future, right?
Mhm.
Then you could then consider that to be divination, right? But if you're just going to the astral world and you're not looking for any knowledge, not pulling anything, which again, I'm not saying that that's why you would go, right? I would personally be looking for knowledge for sure. But I'm just saying it as a point, right? If you can astral project and it not be a sin, then the astral projection is not the sin, and that's not the abomination. The abomination is the divination, which is mentioned here. And same thing with the spiritist or a medium. If you astral project and you allow a spirit into your body, or you're astral projecting and you start talking to spirits to try to learn something, right? You're breaking two rules, right? You're divinating and you're a spiritist and calling on the dead. So there you could make an argument that that is an abomination, but you can still make the separation between that and the astral projection. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, I get what you're saying. But just me personally, like at least of like from what I could tell or know from my current knowledge of it, I just think, whatever mechanism is taking place in order for you to actually project and like have some sort of disassociative out of body experience, I think I think it might be supernatural to a certain extent, and if it is, then I think it would be more demonic as opposed to something godly that comes from the creator of the universe.
Sure. But you do understand that that's more of a matter of perspective, right? And that you could say the same thing of like, um, you know, if we want to judge the morality of something in general, right? Like a tool. I see astral projection as a tool. It's a thing. It's a verb, right? It's not a noun, but a verb is like it's what you do. So it's not evil until you start applying like certain intents to it, right? So again, like
Mhm.
a gun isn't evil inherently. A gun is evil when it's used to commit, horrendous acts. But there's also the flip of it, and that a gun can be used to prevent horrendous acts. Now, there's no doubt that if astral projection is real, that it holds potent effects for those who can use it. Um, wouldn't you say that it would be pretty advantageous to the elite to suppress a kind of natural human ability like this?
I'm not sure if I would agree with you calling it a natural human ability. I would still argue that it would be something that's
Defines.
aided
I would
aided through supernatural means, and specifically like demonically.
define supernatural means and even demonic means.
Supernatural meaning it's coming from the spiritual realm outside. I mean, of course, we would both agree that um, you know, the human life is composed of not just our flesh, but we have a soul and spirit. Yes, but I'm saying spiritual realm as in like things like angels and demons, or even God Himself, right? So
So
that would be
you
the supernatural thing.
so you believe that even though in the Bible it literally says that we were made to judge angels, right? So God literally in the Bible made us to be of higher rank than angels, but yet you believe that he would have us be completely material? That doesn't make any
No,
sense at all.
wait. I No, we're not complete material. We have the what animates our flesh and soul is the spirit of God. Just like Genesis
But
two
you would
seven
have
says.
us, I guess what I should have said, better word choice. You would have us ignore the mechanics and the workings of anything spiritual.
Um well, it depends. See, in my worldview, demons are spiritual too. So you have to be very specific what kind of spirituality you're dealing with.
Do you know where the word demon comes from?
Comes from. I mean, I know pretty sure I know the origin of demons, but as far as etymology, maybe not so much.
So demon comes from the word daemon. It's a Greek word that means wise master. There's an old but common practice that societies would do, not just really societies, but like warring nations. Basically, what would happen is that whenever a nation would take over another nation, they would demonize the words and the gods, turn them into demons, devils, and evil creatures, and then usurp it with their gods, to kind of alter the course of that whole society's history. So one of the examples I take to this is when Greek fell, right? And they taken all these words that mean truth and genius and wise, and they turn it to mean things like evil and sinful and things of that nature. And because we're presented with only this one style of worldview growing up, we really get caught up in it like that's really the only way that it could be in this false dichotomy of all these other religions versus my interpretation of this Western religion. But in actuality, there's a little bit of truth in the genocide and racism of native peoples that happened. And I'm not talking like specifically the Americas or anything like that. Like I'm talking across the whole entire world in general, right? There's actually a really good example that I have a video on TikTok that I'll play here in just a minute, where we've actually known for a long time how those weird shaped stones that are like perfect, and people are arguing, oh, they're perfectly cut, they're perfectly shaped. They got to be using laser technology to be able to get these shapes. Like, how are they doing this? No, you idiots. There is literally a type of plant that softens stone to the point that it can be molded. And indigenous people learned about this by watching this type of woodpecker that would take this plant and use it to then make its nest inside stone walls. So we learned, indigenous people learned to then create these types of perfect looking stones, like beautiful masonry. And yet, and now we're going to pretend that that technology is like lost to us, right? Because we destroyed them. We destroyed the native people. We wiped them off the face. We wiped off their gods for the most part. And now all we're left with is like the remnants of the largest ones, um, that have also been corrupted and watered down, to take away from the true meaning of their spirituality. Even in like Hinduism and stuff, because a lot of people would assume that I come from a more Eastern philosophy, and although that is mostly true, even the Eastern philosophies have been completely usurped and completely ignore half of the spiritual spectrum. They have everybody focused on ascending up, to the Godhead, and have people completely ignoring the other part of the hero's journey, which is taking that and coming back down to Earth, to then make the Earth a better place. It's a continuous, perpetual cycle. Let's stop getting caught in the idea that we don't need to make Earth good, because we're going to heaven or whatever. It's probably not happening. Everything that exists in my worldview exists right here, in multiple different layers of perception.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So, and actually, that leads me to one question I want to ask you. So I can let you go and let you do your thing. Um, so, uh, it might be just a series of questions, like for in this sort of Socratic method type of way, just see where you're coming from. So when you say you believe in God, like how would you define God? Like, would you agree it's like some sort of eternal, supernatural creator of the heavens and earth?
So I know it's pretty much all semantics, but I don't believe in the supernatural per se. I believe everything that exists is natural. Supernatural is just a term that we use to try to separate ourselves from the spirit even further. But in actuality, we're not separate. It's all part of the same stuff. This whole idea of like the duality, yeah, there's difference in appearance, difference in form, but it's really not different. It's just how you interact. And people are taught from a very young age to completely ignore the subtle things, which are the spiritual things. Um, Basically, like emotional work. Really, a lot of it is emotional work, and ignoring like the feminine, brain of it. But in any case, I'm sorry. What was your question again?
Oh, basically, just if you believe. I mean,
Oh, if I
do you
believe in a
believe this?
God. Yeah, so I do believe in a creator.
Okay.
I believe that everything that exists is a smaller or larger degree of something else. And so I believe that, and I take this from my own personal experiences. Um, we have lucid dreaming experiences where we can separate our ego into, multiple different facets so that we can learn about ourselves. It's something that I did personally, directly. And I know if that's something that I can do, I can definitely foresee that being something that the creator is doing right now, that we're all living in this lucid dream of God, and God is, portraying out all the different aspects of his infinite personality through each and every one of us, which is also why
Okay.
God does all things, right? Good and evil. There's literally nothing that can be done that can be outside of God's will, because all of this, us included, is God, right? That's why I think it's absolutely fallacious to say things like Satan is, trying to trick us and things like that. It doesn't make any sense, at all. Satan and God are the same. They are one, right? It's just two sides of the same coin that people, continuously overlook for one reason or another.
Wow. So you wouldn't. I mean, so this God creator in your worldview. I mean, there's, because like to me, I always like in everything that I use or own or have come into contact with or experience in my day to day life. I always make a very clear distinction and distinguishment between the creator of something and the creation itself, right? So, for example, I'm sitting here in my room. I know my house was built by, like, it was planned out by an architect and built by construction workers. I would never say the house is the construction workers, right? I'm using this computer to talk with you right now. I would, I know it was built, like, maybe in a
Can I
factory
ask
in China,
you?
but
Can I
you
ask you?
know,
Have you ever had a lucid dream before?
oh, you mean like if I can like control the dream?
Not even necessarily that. I mean that is like the next step. But like, have you ever been in a dream where you were fully aware that you were dreaming?
I don't, I don't know. I don't think so.
So the reason why I have trouble even wrapping my head around some of your base assumptions are because, again, it does come from my own personal experience. So it's not like it's going to be like proof of anything, right? I'm not saying that this is proof that you're wrong. But when you say, well, making this distinction between creation and creator, and I can see why you're making that point because I'm making the comparison between myself and my ego that I split into all these different people in my lucid dream, right? Basically, I'm acting and saying it as if, and you'd be correct that I am those people, that those are my egos that are split into those different people, and that therefore they are me, and that's what I'm saying is God. And you would be absolutely 100% correct. That is what I'm saying. I think that it is a psyop to try to get us to separate ourselves from God in all these tricky ways. And so and you might say, well, wouldn't the creator want the respect of being the creator? No, no, not at all. That comes from a completely humanistic, selfish mindset, one that is in need of ego fluffing. And I can tell you again from personal experience that when I was God in my lucid dream, and there's no other way to put it. When you are in a lucid dream and you are fully lucid, you are God of your dream. There's no other way to put it. Your will is all. Nothing can oppose it. So when I'm going through and I am this God, right? I'm not making the distinction. Once I realized what was going on, and I realized that what I had done, that my ego was in all these different people, and that I was interacting with them to try to like learn something. There was there was absolutely no thought of I need worship. I created all of this. All of this belongs to me. No, it was just the understanding and acceptance that all of this is me, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some can say that that's egotistical, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that God probably sees it that way too. That we literally are all of us in every expression are God. And I think that that's pretty unfalsifiable, actually. I think that in almost every worldview, you'd have to accept that if you accept that there is an all powerful, omnipotent, omnipresent force or God.
Wow, that's I mean, yeah, that just reminds me of like this idea of pantheism, like the universe is just sort of an expression and manifestation of God. Like you can't really separate the two, which is interesting. I mean, you're entitled to that opinion.
Well,
I don't
what
know.
evidence would we have to what evidence would we have against that, right? Even like logically, um, just pure on its face, right? Without even getting into religious text. Why would we assume that, it's the whole natural argument, right? If you could say that certain things are unnatural and certain things are natural, but then I could argue that, well, the unnatural things come from nature. So how can you say that they're unnatural? So, just because we have a
Well,
little bit of processing, right? Just because we're not the exact same thing as the creator at this exact point, right? Like we are not omnipotent, omnipresent in all things. We are a piece of the thing that is all things, right? So I just don't see how you could even begin to disprove that on a logical basis.
well, that's what I was alluding to earlier, right? About making distinction between creator and creation. Like this computer I'm using right now, even though it was built by some sort of engineer for the hardware and software, I would never begin to like say those, like the person who actually made this computer and put together all the different parts to it and everything like that. I would never like look at it and be like, yes, this is also the person who made it. Like
I
If
know
I
it's
have
because you're thinking of things like a actual person creating something, like it takes the physical work instead of the way that things get created in the spiritual, which is literally with no effort whatsoever, just a pure thought. Literally, you think it happens in the astral, same as it has in a lucid dream. The only trick to a lucid dream or an astral projection is in controlling your thoughts and your will. So no, I don't take it to be the same analogy as the watchmaker, although again, I do agree that there's a creator and that there's enough evidence around that things are intelligently designed. I don't think that that necessarily means that the creator sat there and meticulously put forward every little single piece of the creation. Just like I created a dream out of my mind, out of nothing more than pure thought instantaneously, that's probably how it happened with us and God.
I mean, yeah, the exact mechanism by which God created this universe, I don't think anyone will ever know. Well, at least not now in my worldview. Maybe we
Fair.
can ask him once we get to the kingdom of heaven. But you know, the very least that the Bible puts it is that he just sort of used his word, like he like literally spoke it into existence, which might sound just as easy as like he thought of it, like kind of like you're saying in your lucid dream.
Well, thoughts
Um,
are. Well, this is actually proven, right? You're getting into some good. You're getting into some good stuff here, right? So even though it does say that the God spoke it, right? You can speak in your head. You can you can talk without talking out loud. And where does that sound come from? And they've actually done studies and they've proven that our thoughts are literal vibrations as well. So again, God could have thought it, literally thought it in word form. Doesn't even matter, right? I mean, we're the ones putting limitations, right? But again, and there's another distinction too, because we're talking about a person creating a chair or a watch,
mhm.
in a creation versus the top, the source of all that is versus all that is not that source, which is again why I say it's literally impossible. Nothing can be not that source, right? So everything is God. There's literally no other way to put it.
Wow. Yeah. I'm just not exactly sure. Like, you know, a dream, or even a lucid dream or astral projection, whatever you want to call it, which is, you know, is inherently sort of immaterial in nature. I don't think that's exactly fair to be analogous to like the real world, or like where we know for sure, like our call right now, that we know for sure is not a dream, and that we're actually talking in, you know, like real, like, you know, real life, right? So the
Move this call out in 5 years from today, and it's going to be no different, right? I'm going to have to rely on my memory storybook to piece together this interaction, to then present it to me, as well. But I'm not saying that there's not. I get what you're saying. Like there is an objective truth, right? Like there is objective reality, and I think we can agree on that for sure. I think that we just can't agree that the objective reality involves, um, being perfectly laid out by the Bible. Um, that even before the translation issues, when you just get to the actual meat of it and what it's actually saying, unless you're making mental gymnastics for every point of it, you're gonna find that it's you're gonna find it unjustifiable. It does have contradictions. It does tell you that are supposed to, kneel to authority and not do as pagans do, but then also has you walk through blood sacrifices. There are several blood sacrifices, in the Bible. Now that we got Andrew B on, let me go ahead and pull back up the panel page. So, and I'll put myself back on camera over here. So, okay. Yeah, I
man.
appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me on. It's
Well,
man,
I was
it's
actually wanting to ask Robo a question here.
sure. What's up?
Why do you believe in Christianity versus any other religion?
Well, I mean, I was raised, you can say Christian, like a lot of people were in America or wherever else, like a Christian nation in the world. I went to Sunday church every Sunday with my family, mostly out of like obligation. As a child, I couldn't really say no, right? But believe it or not, I never like I always believed in a God, like a creator, like of the universe. I was never an atheist. Like even though I was taught Big Bang and evolution in school, I just thought that was a scientific explanation as to like how God created this universe, right? And so the Bible I always thought like was just sort of like a fairy tale myth kind of thing, just to have like a sort of a spiritual guidance sort of explanation to the world, right? So I always believe in God, but as far as is the Bible really a true word of God? Is Jesus Christ really the Son of God, the Messiah and Lord? Does the devil exist? All of that stuff, like I didn't really believe any of that, despite all these years going to church. Only up until 2.5 years ago now, where I came across the flat Earth revelation, and I saw that the Bible corroborated that cosmology, that it describes the Earth being as a level stationary plane enclosed in a dome fixed on a foundation within a geocentric universe with all the heavenly luminaries revolving around us. From Genesis to Revelation, even all the quote unquote apocryphal books that I consider to be inspired as well. It was only until I came across that, like the epiphany I had about the true nature of our universe, that did start to believe in the Bible. And this is the main reason why I now believe the Bible to be the true word of God, is because, and it's very anecdotal. It's something personal to me. I went through a handful of very powerful supernatural experiences that I could not deny, I could not ignore at the time. The first out of the handful, the first one that happened to me was I mean it's not a long story, but I probably don't want to get into it just now. But basically, I went through something that was so powerful. Like, long story short, I thought I was dying. Okay, and I called 911 for the very first time in my life because it was just that intense. And basically, because I didn't die, and I'm living to tell you the story now. The only logical conclusion that I can come up with, it was like God, like, literally blessing me with the Holy Spirit Himself, especially considering the fact that my vision got clear, some injuries I had started healing up, and even my hair started growing faster. Like, I have dreadlocks. I'm from Ethiopia. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
So, do you think that people that grow up in India are going to be going to hell because they don't necessarily believe in Christianity? Most of them are definitely Hindu.
Right, that's a great question. I do not actually believe that they will, like, by default go to hell just because they're Hindu. Because I believe God is a fair and righteous judge, and He'll only judge you by the knowledge and opportunity of the gospel, or whatever true spirituality.
Okay, what about
Um,
atheists?
Nope, atheists, not also not by default going to hell. No, and I'm basing this a lot off of by Matthew 25. It's called the Great Judgment of the Sheep and Goats, and basically in that parable, you see how Christ talks about how what he's suggesting is, even if people didn't know about Him and the gospel of the kingdom of heaven, if their behavior while living on earth in any way sort of exemplifies, or he sees a potential of godly behavior, like of keeping Torah and walking in the Spirit, like things explained in Galatians 5 about walking in peace and love and meekness and gentleness, temperance, and not doing all the stuff that
Well,
fulfills the lusts of your flesh, like drunkenness and fornication, stuff like that. Well, then he's going to say to them, welcome on in. You get to come into heaven.
I never
Are
knew
you,
you practice lawlessness. You practice the Torah perfectly, or you don't get in. That's what the book says. And you're
Well, it
supposed to
doesn't say
test
it
it.
didn't say
But
It
you're
doesn't say
supposed to make
perfectly
your,
though,
well,
does it?
you practice, well, you're right, it doesn't say perfectly, but you have to do your best to walk perfectly, and then when you mess up every single year, you're supposed to bring a sin offering for the sins that you knowingly commit, and then your priest is supposed to do a sin offering for the sins of the people that were unknowingly committed. But you're also supposed to put people to death who knowingly committed sins as well, depending on the sins. A lot
Wait.
of them had the death penalty. But then you would say that, well, that law was done away with when we
Right.
had Yeshua, even though
Mhm.
that wasn't. Can you tell me, like, where in the Torah it says that the law was going to be like perfectly fulfilled and then done away with, and we wouldn't have to do it because Yeshua would do it in the spirit form for us?
Where in the Torah does it say that?
Because I can tell you several places where it says the opposite of that, and where it says anybody saying anything like that, um, that they're a stumbling block to you. And so
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I've only been seriously studying the Bible for only 2.5 years now, and obviously there's people that have been studying a lot longer than I have. So I'm no biblical scholar by any means. So I can't really give you a verse on the top of my head. I can only go to like something in Hebrews or something
I
where it
want to
talks
give
about how
you
God doesn't.
I want to give you a source so that you can do your journey a little bit faster. And I think we have, just so you know, even though we disagree, I still really enjoyed our conversation. In fact, there's a lot of similarities between you and I. In fact, one of the reasons why I had fallen back into Christianity initially was because of an intense supernatural experience that I had had,
Mhm,
which had
mhm,
literally scared the bejeebus out of me, and made me want to grab the Torah and search the ancient ways and try to really, really figure it out because I hadn't figured it out.
mhm.
The supernatural experience happened to me shortly after I started to realize the full in depth problems that were happening in the world. But basically, I went through and Robo, I'm sure that since you're in the truth community, that you're watching stuff like this, that you're probably familiar with the fact that the Bible has been mistranslated a couple times in a certain way, in certain ways, correct?
Yeah, I would be naive to say it's like completely infallible, like our modern translation. Yeah.
Okay. So if you go, you can look this up. It's called the Institute of Scriptural Research. They have done the best job that I've seen so far at providing a transliteration from the Greek Septuagint, and I can't remember what the other source is, but it's basically the oldest, most accurate sources that we believe and that the scholars believe that exists of the Bible. So when you read this version of it, and mind you, for all in all, it's pretty much the same as the others. It just helps it helps take out some of the confusion because there are some things in the because of the mistranslations that are confusion. And one of the things that gets taken out completely is the Trinity doctrine, because the Trinity doctrine is something that was completely added in by Catholics. Like literally entire lines were added in, like, and the three were as one, and things like that. So, yeah, when you read it, it says, especially when you get into Isaiah, it says like several different times, there is no savior but me. I'll bring a sword onto the land, and if there were Isaac, Jacob, and whoever else in that land, by their righteousness they would only save themselves. Each is to die for their own sin. Human sacrifice is an abomination. um so there's no way. Also, and God doesn't change, so it's actually a tremendous slap in the face. And Jews, I've heard Jews call it this for good reason. um it's a tremendous slap in the face to say that you believe in the Bible, that you believe it's the holy word of God, that it's that you've read it and all this stuff, but then go around and say, "Oh, well, we've been saved by this human sacrifice that was ordained by God to bring us back to Himself," which and logically doesn't even make sense if you literally just say it, right? God sent Himself down as His Son to sacrifice himself to himself to reconcile us
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
himself so that himself can rule at his right hand forever.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Trinity doctrine is completely incoherent. Um,
Yeah, I'm no Trinitarian. Yeah.
so but when you get rid of that, right, and this is where I was at, right? So I got through Trinitarianism. I got to where I was following Yeshua, right? I was like, okay, I'm following Yeshua. He's the perfect example, and he's our Mashiach. He's the high priest, right? That's supposed to be intercessing for us, right?
Right.
There is literally, and I'll challenge you, Robel, this will help with your scriptural research. I challenge you to find in the Old Testament anywhere, and specifically in the Torah, because that's what everything is supposed to be tested to, where it says that we would ever be allowed to have our sin offerings be made in the spirit. That is pretty much all you need. If it says that, because nothing can be done, it says in the Torah that nothing will be done without first being revealed to the prophets. Okay, so the prophets are going to get it, they're going to say it, and then it's going to happen. Okay, so in the Old Testament, which prophet stated that in the future, the temple is going to be destroyed, and so we're not going to have a place. So we're going to need to be doing things now this other way. There's really no other way to put it. It is a different way than doing it than God in the Bible initially set it out. He set it out that we were supposed to be doing this thing with the temple, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. The only argument that I've heard against that is that, well, that was supposed to be a pre-telling of Jesus's coming. It wasn't actually a sacrifice for your sin. It was just like a drama play that they were playing for Jesus and Yeshua coming. Nowhere, literally nowhere in the book does it say anything even remotely close to that, but yet it will be hung on to with your life because it's the only thing that even kind of makes sense to save the doctrine. These are just a few examples. When you start getting into it even deeper with the mistranslations, I think you're going to realize that there is no savior, that our salvation was doing the law, and you blasphemed when you said that Yeshua was God, or that Yeshua was your savior, because in Isaiah, again, God said that there is no other savior but him, and that he shares his esteem with no one, and that there is no one at his right hand. So that's why this whole point started with, it's a slap in the face, right? And it is. It's a slap in the face because the Bible isn't really read by Christians. It's just preached, cherry-picked, and it's not even really studied, even though even in the new translations it says, seek after the ancient ways. So why wouldn't you seek after the oldest translation of the Bible that you could possibly find and try to make sense of it?
Yeah, the Bible was not written by Christians.
No.
The earliest known version of the Bible that I've ever heard of is the I always mispronounce it, the Septuagint,
The Greek Septuagint.
which from Hebrew to Greek, so it wasn't even Christian.
It was
Yeah.
It was the Israelis. So it was Middle
Well,
Eastern.
the Hebrew Israelites, not Israelis. There's a big difference there.
Here's my challenge to every Christian that is alive today, and I will back this up. If you can prove to me that Jesus Christ lived and was a real person, I'll give you $10,000.
Well, Andrew, he's the most written about. He's the most historically antiquated characters ever. There's no way he didn't exist in some form.
I can't even prove to someone, if they said to me, Andrew, can you prove that Abraham Lincoln existed?
No.
I would have a really hard time doing that, even though there's photographs and
Right.
paintings and stuff. So when you talk about someone that allegedly existed and walked on water and turned water into wine, and then
And those are all metaphors.
did all these miracles, and no one else has been able to do that ever since then, I'm just calling bullshit to that whole story.
Yeah, Jeranism did a great stream on it where he was getting into some of the numerology of it, and that's where you can kind of understand that it was written by Masons or by the Illuminati, whichever. It actually was written by the powers that be with certain numerology and symbology in it, and that's because it is a grimoire. A lot of people don't get this because you don't know magic at all. You don't read any occultic books or understand how rituals are written out or anything like that. But if you did, you would understand that the Bible is 100% a grimoire, 100% a grimoire casting a black magic spell of control.
Wait.
Yes, I believe that's correct, because back in the day, they didn't have a whole lot of ways to control people unless it was through fear. The same thing they're doing today with the media and war and things like that. So it's just the control mechanism has just changed a little bit, but the religious aspect that still exists in every single culture, I mean, almost every culture, including the Bible, is used as a fear mechanism to get people to act a certain way.
Okay, so you guys are throwing out a lot of stuff. I just
Yeah, sorry.
no, it's all good. I just having a hard time keeping up with it because I originally wanted to respond to what Tribune said earlier about I can't remember now, but I just had some stuff. Okay. So when you say Torah, like you said something about like I challenge you to find something in Torah about Yeshua, becoming a high priest and doing his thing. Well, for me, Torah is just like the way I define it is not necessarily just like the first 5 books of the Bible, because of course, like when you look at the full like canon of the Bible, which shouldn't just be 66 books. I do believe the 66 book canon could be some sort of Masonically like done thing because 66 is an occult number that I believe that was chosen to be as close as possible to 666, right? So that's one thing. Like I looked into the scriptural Institute of Scriptural Research. Yeah, this looks like some good gravy, so I'll definitely look into this. Just by a little overview on this webpage I'm looking at, when it talks about like the original Hebrew names being restored, it reminds me of the version of the Bible that I read. I like. It's called the Sefer, published by
I know that
by
one.
by Dr. Stephen Pigeon. So I'll definitely look into this. Thanks for pointing this out to me.
One more
But like I
channel.
was saying,
But hold that
oh
thought. One more channel source to go with that. How I found
yeah,
that. How I found that Bible was a channel called Beit Tefillah. It basically means house of prayer. It's this guy. He
oh,
always wears the same white shirt, and it's got the Beit Tefillah on it. He's got a beard. He's a messianic. He's yeah, I believe that's what they call him. He follows the Bible, but he doesn't follow the Bible the type of Bible that you follow. I believe. But he does a fantastic job. I basically watched him on his journey also go through, leaving Trinitarianism, and then you eventually come to the idea that the Savior itself is a pagan idea, and then you have to walk away from that as well, because it's not found again in the Torah. And if you're again, I keep relating everything back to that because if you're going to make the claim that the Bible is true, then when you read and understand the Bible, you understand that the verse doesn't say that the Bible is truth, right? The verse says your Torah is truth. So the whole Bible is the Bible. The Torah is specifically what God said was not to be changed, was not to have was where the curses were, right? So all these other stuff, right? You can make an argument that, well, we can change the New Testament because that's not the Torah. We can change the books in the Old Testament that are not part of the Torah because it's not part of the Torah. At least this is how like the people who believe in the book would think, right? So when you're
mhm.
testing it, you're supposed to test it to the actual Torah and not to the whole Bible itself. Otherwise, you get, the words of Matthew and what he thought about the Torah, and the words of Paul and what he thought about the Torah. And you're not supposed to take any of that because that's man's words. You're supposed to take what the actual Torah says and what the Creator speaks to you while you're meditating on it. It literally does tell you to meditate on the Torah as well, but which is another thing that tells me it's a black magic, low key ritual designed to get people to completely forfeit their spiritual power. And I say for control, but it's even more sinister than that because manifestation is a real thing, and they hijack it by making you manifest into this thought form that they're all manifesting behind too. And when you look at what they're manifesting behind it, it's literally our enslavement and domination. So it's like, holy crap, they're hitting us from both sides, and they're getting us to like be willing about it. So it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, the black magic thing is probably a little far fetched for me, but yeah, just to get back to what I was saying. Okay, so you might be right about the Torah being specifically like a certain set of like laws, statutes, and commandments of God. I can probably grant you that, but when it comes to like the Old Testament, like the Hebrew Tanakh, as they say, um, like the prophets and the writings, like Psalms and Proverbs. I mean, I think there's many prophecies of this Messiah coming forth, like in the form of the Son of God.
Before
Isaiah,
you, but
especially in the book of Isaiah. What's that?
before you bring them up, because Bait Villa actually did a really great video specifically on the proof texts. The proof texts are 100% taken out of context and misunderstood, guaranteed. The ones in Isaiah that you're referring to are talking
Uh-huh.
about King Hezekiah. Um,
Okay.
they demonstrate this. And there's fulfillment texts around the texts in Isaiah that are not fulfilled around Yeshua. So that's like it's literally being hit from both sides to like prove to you that it's definitely not that way. You're definitely like it's this is why I go back to one of my beliefs I have is that they trick us into practicing watered down beliefs because it fucks with our spirituality and messes with our ability to manifest. So they'll get you to say that they'll basically get you a core belief and that this book is true, but then they'll get you like literally lying to make the book continue to be true even though it contradicts itself several times.
To be honest, I have heard that. I have heard that sort of theology before, like from a person who used to believe in Yeshua as the Messiah, and then somehow he turned into just like an Old Testament only kind of dude. And
That's where
yeah, I've heard the King Hezekiah
yeah.
thing before about, I think, in Isaiah, about like the son, about a child being born unto us. And then one of the most,
Well, it
I believe to
happens.
be the most.
Well, it literally
What's that?
happens, right? So that prophecy literally gets fulfilled around King Hezekiah, no doubt. It's like it literally happens. So, but then you have to say that it happens
Yeah.
again for Yeshua, although not as
Wait,
complete, but we'll pretend that
Isaiah.
it is.
Wait, because I'm pretty sure in Isaiah 9:6 it talks about uh maybe it's
So even in the
oh yeah.
context too, like when you're looking at the context of that story, right? Like that whole entire story was about a sovereign literally looking for a sign from God that things were going to be okay for his kingdom in his time. And God, the prophet, God came through a prophet and said, "Look, everything's going to be okay, and here's going to be the sign for you that you're going to know that it's going to be okay." That wasn't a prophecy for some future thing. When you read the context, that was a prophecy for their day.
I mean, okay. Look, Trivia, I hear you, brother, but like, just off of like what I haven't done like obviously like a very in-depth study about this whole thing, but just from what I can tell you right now, just looking at this verse, Isaiah 9, yeah, for verse 6, it says, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is
Emmanuel.
given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder." And they give him all these wonderful names like Counselor, the Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Right.
But then the proof text, or to me at least, would come in the next verse as to it being a future prophecy as opposed to something that's already been fulfilled. Because in verse 7 it says, "Of the increase of his government and peace shall be there shall be no end upon the throne of David, upon his kingdom, to order it to establish with judgment and with justice, henceforth even forever." Right. So it says no end and forever. That to me sounds
Yeah, they're
like
talking about two
how
different things, and so
Yeshua
they're
will reign as king.
well, no, they're talking about two different things, and you're trying to equate it to be the same thing, and then say that it's about Yeshua, but they're just talking about two different things.
I mean, didn't King Hezekiah's reign and whatever government he was ruling over it come to an end?
I mean, of course, but it was never said that it was going to
How
be
can it be
guaranteed
about
forever.
him?
And
How can it be about him, Trivia?
it literally never said that his kingdom was going to last forever. Where did it say that? Where did it say that he was going to have an everlasting kingdom?
Well, it talks about the government and peace that he's going to be like in charge of. There's going to be no end to it.
I got a question here for every Christian alive. If Jesus was not mentioned in the Bible, would they still believe it?
That's I mean, that's sort of a hard hypothetical question to
I know it
answer.
is. I do apologize. That is a very hard hypothetical. So, but it's something to ponder.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and with your whole challenge about like, oh, did Jesus Christ really live and exist. I don't think that's, well, maybe some like very biblical scholarly historian type people may be able to give you compelling evidence that you'd find sufficient as to the empirical evidence for that claim. But for me, I like going, especially coupled with the experiences that I've had, and I've had a handful, that I'd be more than glad to share with you guys the next time I hop onto this show, because I like you guys a lot.
Yeah, it's getting
this is
pretty
my
late
first time
for Trouble and
hopping on.
Tribune, and getting late for me as well.
Yeah, sure. But like the Messiah clearly says to, I think, was one of his disciples. It was either John or Peter. He says something along the lines like, oh, like Peter, good for you that you have seen and you believe, but blessed are those who believe and have not seen, right? So that would be my generation. So I have no problem, not having like very like physical empirical evidence of his existence to believe in him,
But
because
wouldn't that be pretty
according to him.
convenient if somebody just wanted you to believe that that was a thing, right? That they could just give
Huh?
you a belief that would make it so that you wouldn't require the empirical evidence?
Yeah, well, no, I see what you're saying, but it's not it's not just like it's not only just like my belief in Yeshua as Messiah that makes me a Christian. Or I like using the word Nazarene. I think it's a little more authentic.
You know,
But
Nazarene wasn't even a place when Yeshua was around.
well, I
Nazarene
think it would
was
be Nazareth, right?
no, it wasn't a crop. It was literally a graveyard. It was a necropolis.
Wait, you mean Nazareth? You mean?
Yeah, so I can't remember which it is, Nazareth or Nazarene, either one. The city, right? It's a place.
Uh-huh.
Did not exist at the supposed time of Yeshua's walk with man. That place on earth was a necropolis. So, calling yourself a Nazarene, I would not consider that necessarily more genuine. It sounds like you're still very early on in your journey of biblical research, and that's totally okay. Um, some homework. I definitely recommend looking at the Bait to Phila channel. He has playlists, and one of the playlists you can check out would be walking away from Messiah, because it's gonna skip right to like where you are already. Like you're already past like Jesus is the fake name, right? We're past that. You already know that. We don't have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
entertain that. We don't have to entertain the other mistranslations or Trinitarianism. Like we're past that. We can just get right to the actual like Messiah itself. He's gonna be able
Mhm,
to show you the proof texts that you think are backing it up do not.
mhm.
Yeshua, his prophecies are not backed up, and he actually says some claims that are verifiably false. Like there are some in his generation that are not going to taste death until literally the heaven and earth pass away. He said there were going to be some that would not taste death until that happened. That's literally a lie.
I think you're talking about Matthew 24. I'm not exactly sure that he was talking about his generation at his time. I think because
He
I'm pretty
said
sure the context of that chapter is his disciples are talking about they ask Yeshua, oh, what are the end, like when are the
He
end
said it
times
was
and when is it
he
going to
said
be
it
like?
was so yeah, exactly. The context was that it was coming quickly like a thief in the night, so that you should always be ready. So it wasn't like for some future. It was like again, everything that they were talking
Oh,
about was the urgency. It was for the now. It's not for like some future. Except for the verse where God's
well,
talking
wait a
about
minute.
the 500 years of slavery that the Israelites were going to endure.
Yeah, 400. But yeah, Thief and Knight. I don't. Thief and Knight is just sort of illustrating the very
But he
like
said
sudden catastrophic kind of
he
eschatology
said
of
well
his
again
return.
again you read the
Not
context. He
the
says
urgency
nearly
of it.
yeah. Well, he said he was being urgent with it, because he said nearly I say unto you there are some in this generation that will not pass until all be done away with. Like he was comforting them that this was coming quickly, that they weren't going to have to wait a whole long time for this. Like you actually have to read the story and understand the context.
If he was even real.
Yeah. I'm saying, even if you want to assume that it's 100% real, when you actually dive in and actually look at the context, you'll see that a lot of what you believe about the story is not real, and the actual story is something completely different. So I think Bait Tefillah does a really great job of breaking down some of that stuff, even though I disagree with him because he still believes in the Bible. He still believes that if he practices, the perfect ways of the Torah, that you can still get in. And I see through it at this point. I see it as a mechanism of control. And I know you said you're unsure about the magic thing. I would also advise you to look at some occult literature on like ritual craft. A lot of it is like mental and word magic, so it doesn't even require like a pentagram and like all this other like setup that you'll see in like Hollywood. A lot of it is like wordplay, where they'll write stuff down and they'll burn it, or they'll just say things backwards and forwards and just weird stuff like that. But it's all mental. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm gonna get off real quick here, but I have to end with this and just saying that going back to the conspiracy aspect of what a lot of people are believing in when flat Earth and stuff like that, just 9/11, for example, are the history and the moon landing. History is going to say one thing, but it doesn't mean that's actually what happened. So, you think the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or anything like that is infallible to being manipulated? I think that's very naive.
yeah, I 100%
Yeah,
agree.
no, like I said earlier, like the modern translation of the Bible, especially like outside of the King James or ones like that, yeah, there's definitely some purposeful perpetrated mistranslations in there for the purpose of sort of any,
I've heard
having
King
some sort of deception or something that would change the doctrine.
I've heard King James was literally a Mason,
Um,
and that's why his
I
Bible's so different.
I I don't know. I don't know. That might be true. But seems to check out for the most part for me. But anyway, like I said, I read the Sefer too, not necessarily just the King James. But yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I think we're on a good point to go ahead and end the show for the panel. I appreciate you guys coming on and not keeping me too terribly late. This is the type of conversation that literally can just go on for hours and hours and hours.
yeah, for
Um,
real.
so, but I definitely appreciate the conversations. We're gonna be doing this every week, digging in more and more, and obviously not just into Christianity. We're gonna be taking shots at all of the dogma, all of the religions. They're all gonna get it. Even the Hindus, even the Buddhists. Even the chakra practices. You're not skating out. I know that you're full of shit. So, in any case, yeah, Robel, Andrew, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna go ahead and end the call for you guys. Let's go ahead and jump back over to the mainstream. Where are we at? All right, made it back on over. All right, the show will literally just continue to go if I let it. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it with this last little note here, because again, the whole point of the show was like serpent symbolism, and I didn't even get to remotely cover it. But here was a great little diagram here. Obviously we've seen snake symbols throughout the world. You see them on Shiva. This is the gates of Ishtar up here in the top corner. The gates of the underworld in the Sumerian. Then you have a serpent coming out of the coffin here. Illuminati confirmed, right? Reptilian takeover. Just kidding. And also depicted as gods, and you see Hermes here in the middle. Again, you have it simplified here. This is what I found very humorous. If you pay very close attention, you can probably find which one of these kind of doesn't fit, with the theme or with the others, right? So, with it up at the top, we're going to have spiritual growth. Then we are going to have, what the heck? I just had you. Come back. Give me 1 second. All right. So, top we have spiritual growth, fertility, healing, duality and balance, protection, wisdom, rebirth and regeneration, and then we have deceit. So It's really not hard for me to see what happened here. Just demonization of. Oh, did I not? Is the art thing's not up? Nobody can see it. 1 second. All right. There we are. Sorry about that. So, yeah, you got your spirit. This is the graph of all the different symbolisms with the serpent, and most of them are good. They mean things like truth and wisdom, rejuvenation, and then you have one that's deceit, and that obviously comes from the Abrahamic faiths that are basically trying to take over everything with the iron fist. Okay, so we go over here, and we have I call them the snake staffs. We talked about them briefly. Staff of Caduceus and the rod of Asclepius. This rod with the single snake was actually the healer rod. Just so that people know, this other rod was the messenger of the gods, Hermes. Some say he's the patron of thieves. Whatever. I haven't really seen that. If it is, it is. But the symbolism for the Caduceus is not what most people think. Maybe if I put it in another context, it would make a little more sense. All right. So there we have it. Now this is a basic layout of the main chakra system in the human body. And then here you have a depiction of two serpents spiraling up. So that's actually the yin and yang of the Kundalini. All right, some would say it's the light and the dark, or the positive and the negative. I actually, I don't like the positive and negative because it gives weird connotations, right? It's just different. It's just different aspects, different personalities, if you will, of the divine energy, which was referred to as serpent energy. Kundalini actually, means coil, and a deep dark place. So they're talking about the serpent in the deep dark place within you that you bring up through to the top so that you can get enlightenment. However, this is only half of the story. So I come across this article that I found very interesting. This is actually the picture from the article. It's about the other part of Kundalini that most people don't hear about, or also the tree of life. To give some context with that, when you read some commentary on the symbolism in the Bible, the tree of life actually in Kabbalah, according to Kabbalah, is the chakra system within us. And so here we have like an inverted tree of life that has its roots up in the heavens and its leaves down to the earth below. So let me go ahead and finish pulling up this article here. Where the heck is it? Oh, sorry, my computer's running just a little slow now that we're this deep into the show. Oh, well, it is what it is. This will just take a brief moment. But I wanted to read this because I wanted to kind of give people more of an idea of like what I would consider a complete picture of all the things that you can think about. Well, I can't say that, right? What you can never really cover all of the things, but you could definitely get more, right? So this was talking about some stuff that I have not really heard other people talking about. So I'm still just trying to pull it up here. Come on, taking its sweet time. I wish I could do a chat shout out, but I cannot at the moment because I'm looking at this. Okay, here we go. The article was called Fractal Enlightenment. All right, let's get this pulled up. And I'm just going to read some of it here. The inverted tree and the mystery of reversed Kundalini. All right. The inverted tree, arbor inversa, rooted in the heavens and flourishing earthward, is an earthward. Man, I can't say that. That's hard to say. Is an archetypal meta symbol of contrarianism, sacred inversion, and reverse engineering, with its lower structure fixated above, planted in thunder, and its summit here below, casting lightning. The inverted trees is the antithetical agency of the mystics, shamans, and sacred clowns the world over. I like their word, very playful there. As Young quotes from the Bhagavad Gita, there's a fig tree in the ancient story of the giant Savitha, the everlasting, rooted in heaven, its branches earthward. Each of its leaves is a song of the Vedas, and he who knows it knows all of the Vedas. All right, so just some context there. Okay, planted in the heavens by its roots of the hair, the person fortunate enough to have the magical experience of possessing the reversed Kundalini is in for quite a ride. Holding the tension between opposites, those with the reverse Kundalini live between worlds, rattling the heavens and biting the earth. They are peripheral on the edges, flirting with limits and sweet talking them into becoming limitless. Sounds like Satanism, doesn't it? Evil stuff here, guys. Watch out. Their shadows are white, their halos are black, and they blur boundaries by maintaining the unity of opposites. They are guided by the midnight sun, Sol Niger. Their luminous shadows shine like the beacons of darkness into the blinding light of everydayness. Basically, we're talking about crushing the mundane, right? Rooted in cosmos, crowned by the earth and anchored in the universe, the inverted Kundalini energy flips the script. It turns the tables on fixed notions about how energy flows. The inverted inverted tree is groundless but not lost. It's not homeless but home full. The vast cosmos is its bedrock, its cornerstone, its home. Basically talking about the spirit of like the wanderer, right? The wandering archetype where everywhere can be home. Everywhere can be comfortable. Very adaptable. Those with the inverted tree inside them experience wanderlust like no other. They cannot stay put. Their crown chakras are spinning them into earthly adventures, into manifested heroes' journeys, and there is much adventure to be had. The earth is a playground, and the mystics, shamans, and sacred clowns are on recess. This is exactly, very well articulated what I've been trying to tell people about. Um, maybe stop looking to there being a heaven or a hell or some like afterlife that we're going to. Everything is right here. The earth is our home, it is our playground, it is where we are to do our work, and everything that exists right here, in my humble opinion. They don't need wax wings to fly over the labyrinth, for they are already inherently grounded in flight. Flight is their homeland, their medium, their soulcraft. Becoming entrenched, fixated, and immobilized, or buried in the mundane is what they fear. Their version of flying too close to the sun is becoming stuck in a tired and banal routine. Like the routine of waking up in the morning, going to work, 5, 6 days a week, after going to school for, however many years of indoctrination that you had to go through there, just to be able to pay your bills and die at the end of the road. Crowning earthward, the roots of all living things are tied together. Deep in the ground of being, they tangle and embrace. Should have played some music with this, right? If we look deeply, we find that we do not have a separate self-identity, a self that does not include sun and wind, earth and water, creatures and another. With its branches fractaling earthward, the inverted tree bears fruit filled with magic elixir, and since it is rooted in cosmos, it doesn't even have to steal it from the gods. The whole Hephaestus story of stealing the fire, not necessary. It delivers it wholesale, rains down the nectar of the gods, bypassing the heavens altogether, and hand delivering new knowledge to the tribe. Those with reversed kundalinis must come to terms with having their crowns buried, where most people's crown chakras branch upward, cosmically drawn to the 1,000-petaled lotus. Those with the inverted tree inside them have the 1,000-rooted lotus, inverted ascendant enlightenment into a sacred descent into Gaia. So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I'll post the link for the full article if anybody wants to finish up. There are a couple more verses with it, but it basically goes through very poetically all the chakras all the way down. So it's almost in its way like its own meditation. But let me go ahead and get this posted, guys, and we'll go ahead and close it out. It's been real fun doing shows this new way. Really, really been a lot of fun. Feel like we're getting a lot of really good feedback, and we are going to continue growing, continue shooting upwards, so that we can continue expanding this experience, creating a more diverse panel as the shows go on. And folks, we just had another donation. Call for 0. Hope your family is doing well. My family is doing very well, and they're always very, very excited to see how much support that we get, doing these shows. So, seriously, tremendous thanks. When we get the new computer in, it's going to be huge. Everything right now is all static and boring. I don't have borders or, moving words, and all that could be just so much better. So I want to provide you guys a really good show. That way it's entertaining for you guys as well as for me. But with that being said, I do want to go ahead and close out. Actually, I was still posting that for the... Nope, I did. Excuse me. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right, let's do a last shout out here, and then we'll go ahead and call it a night. Call for 0, Mad Mac, Effed Up World, Swamp Bucker, Yigisil, nice call out. Absolutely, the World Tree. That's another meaning that as above, so below. It's not necessarily like literally below us, but it's within us, right? That is the below, in my humble opinion. Not that it can't be even more than that, right? Everything exists on multiple different losing the word, varying degrees. That's it. Pass through 7-3. Timothy's 1-2, who all have all men to be saved, to come by the knowledge of the truth. One God, one mediator, to be testified in due time. Maybe like Enoch was not for his time. That's interesting. Flat Earth will definitely lead you to the truth, in my opinion. It's a master key. Master key. All right. But just remember, it doesn't make any sense to break out of all this man-made dogma with the globe just to fall right back into it with man-made religion that seeks to harness your very soul and possibly use it against you. Do not fall for it, my friends. Okay. Got you. Call for 0, pass through, and you guys having a lively back and forth. Salted Cedar. Anybody else that I may be missing out? Jeff Pizer. Dan and Dixon. Okay, we're back to where we were before. Perfect. So I'll make sure everybody gets their shout out. Especially you guys over here on Rokfin, Nuba, Andrew B. Also, thanks again, Andrew B, for coming on the show. Always a pleasure having you on. Folks, you got to tune in Friday night, 11 p.m. It's going to be the event, right? We are going to be hashing it out. The True Earth debate is going to be had, and we're going to be having Alan from Space Audits, Jim from Waterworld, Steve. So we're going to be having quite a few. I think I said somebody's name wrong there. I apologize. That's super funny. All right, but yeah, look forward to that. We're going to have a fire presentation. Of course, you can expect Ruhif to be coming back, and hopefully some other Globers, so we can have a nice fiery chat. But all right, with that, I will bid you guys adieu. Oh yeah, real quick, guys, feel free to remember to support the show. The best way to do so is going to be with Rokfin. The guys at Rokfin, $15.99, supports not only myself but tons, and I do mean tons, of other content truth creators. I'm talking Jaronism. I'm talking Alex Stein. I'm talking Karen B. The Melodome. Guys, if you're not supporting the Melodome, what the hell are you doing? Right? We super awesome folks over there, and many others. So for $15.99, you support us all monthly, and you can feel good at night knowing that you're doing that. But if you don't like to do that, if you'd like to just support my show, hey, that's cool too. $5, you can get a subscription to just my content, or you can buy me a coffee. buymeacoffee.com/Tribune, or hashtag MrTribune. By the way, while I am at it, let's go ahead and check that. are there any cash apps here that we need to read? Don't think so. Think we're all good. Yep, we are all good, folks. All right. And finally, let's do the Rokfin tips. All right, we are good there. Perfect. All right, guys, we appreciate all the support, all the love and care. And by the way, if you do disagree with anything that I do talk about on these streams, just know that it is all coming from a place of love. There's no hate here, right? We just like logic and reason and hate powerlessness. My goodness, I hate powerlessness. So, yeah, lots of great metaphors talked about today. Feel free to go back, watch over the stream. One thing that was mentioned I thought was pretty interesting in the Bible is that it mentions that Satan came down like a lightning bolt. So when you consider that Kundalini energy, possibly very likely electric in nature, and we also start talking about the inverted Kundalini and the completion of the hero's journey, the descent back down was mentioned as being like lightning. So is it possible that half of our journey, the half that's actually meant to make us strong and complete, so that we don't get taken advantage of, so that we actually do create a wonderful, wonderful heaven on earth, even if it's temporary, albeit everything in cycles? Is it possible that this aspect of ourselves and of the universe has been completely and utterly demonized? So I want you all to think about that. Drop some good sources, so feel free to check them out. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Let's go ahead. What song we want to end with here? Let me go ahead and get this pulled up. We will leave with a song. No, we don't need the recent files. Okay. Or the CIA drops. Man, there's all kinds of stuff. I can honestly keep this going for another 2 hours probably, but I gotta get some sleep. So where? Please don't make me scroll through everything. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, guys. Appreciate you coming out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys Friday night. Until next time, peace out. Song should load up here any second. Story of my life. It's gonna go super long time now, just because I wanted to trust it. My goodness, we literally might not have music for this outro. Computers being so slow all of a sudden. Almost got it. If you're still in the chat, still in the comments, feel free to let me know what you thought about today's show. If you have some other topics or anything else that you think would be good to cover, then feel free to drop them. And just like Mind Shock, I think we're going to give first priorities to people who do support the show. So we do have a Mormon deep dive coming very soon. And that is going to be sick as hell. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream, guys. Sorry for the lack of music. My computer's being way too slow, but I'll catch you all next time. Peace.